All right, I know this sounds like the oldest, most far-fetched situation ever, but it actually happened. I wish I could tell you in some fancy or unusual way how I found out my wife was cheating on me, but I can't. It was like a bad old story cliche. I work for a car parts manufacturer. I handle the brakes. Somebody has to do it. Luck smiled on me from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. every day, 5 days a week for 8 hours. I work on one of the most archaic machines you've ever seen. I wear safety glasses, earplugs, steel-toed boots, and a denim apron. I hit my quota every day, and if I'm lucky, I'll get a bonus at the end of the year. I have a small, cozy house with 3 bedrooms, a beautiful wife named Jenna, and 2 sons, Tim and Jack, both in primary school. After 10 years of marriage, everything was going well until today. We have 5 stations that put the pads together, all run on compressed air. For 8 years, we haven't had any problems with the equipment. Today, mid-shift, the compressed air system froze. The air used to operate all our machines must be absolutely dry. It is filtered and dehydrated by automatic equipment that never fails well. Almost never. The dehumidifier system was unable to release accumulated moisture tonight. I am no scientist, so all I know is that when moisture and high-pressure air come together, freezing occurs, and everything comes to a complete stop. Instead of making us sit around doing nothing, they just sent the whole team home without pay, of course. I guess you could say that my whole life was ruined by accumulated moisture. When I opened the bedroom door, all I saw was a big hairy back bouncing up and down on my wife, Jenna. Of course, I instinctively turned on the overhead light when I realized Jenna was awake. Damn it, Mike, what the hell are you doing at home? I expected her to be scared, apologetic, and ashamed, but all I got was a pissed-off woman. What the hell is going on? Oh, don't be such a jerk. You know perfectly well what's going on. I'm so sorry you had to see this, but if you had come home when you were supposed to, this would never have happened. He would never have been here, or I would never have seen him. The hairy back turned and now looked at me with a grin. Jenna pulled the blanket up in a feeble attempt to maintain her modesty. My big mistake was grabbing this guy when he got out of bed. He was much larger than when he lay down. I was rewarded for my foolish enthusiasm with 2 very, very hard blows to the ribs. I never managed to hit him and lay on the floor struggling to catch my breath. I'm not sure, but I think it was around this time that I received a blow to the side of my head that set me off. Anyway, I ended up in the hospital emergency room where some medical technician was bandaging my ribs. Jenna sat on a chair near the examination table with a disgusted expression on her face. The technician finished and left the room. Jenna, who the hell is this guy and what was he doing in our house? His name is Tony. He is my friend and I invited him to my place. You had sex with him? You did it with him in our bed? Our children were sleeping just down the hall. Yes, I know. If you hadn't caused such a commotion, they would never have woken up. I had to ask my sister to look after them so I could bring you here. What the hell was he doing there? How many times are you going to ask the same question? We had sex. We indulged in fornication. Is it really that hard to understand? Is this a common thing or the only time? Tony and I have been dating for about 6 months. We tried to keep this a secret from you, although we usually don't come to the house. I couldn't find a nanny. Is it over now? No, this is not the end yet, Mike. You're a good father and a good husband, but Tony is great in bed. I don't see any reason for us to stop this just because it has now been revealed to you. I promise you that we will not meet him in this house again. It's unfair to you and the children. I'm so sorry. Jenna, this is unacceptable. It's all over between us now. Mike, if you try to stop my relationship with Tony in any way, I guarantee you will regret it. You just got the crap knocked out of your head and Tony didn't even break a sweat. I can assure you that it will happen again if you do or say anything. Everyone we know will know that your wife is sleeping with another man and you're too snotty to stop it. All our friends and neighbors will be the first to know about this. I'll make sure your family knows everything about what a pathetic loser you are. The guys you work with will start calling you a cuckold. Think twice, Mike. Your life will become hell. I bet even your sons will despise you. Do you really not care what they think of you? Do you want to make yourself look like a cheater just to humiliate me? I'll do it if I have to, but I bet you won't take this chance. Tony thinks you're a weakling, and I think he's right. You'll have to learn to live with it, Mike. Who the hell is this guy? Where does he work? He doesn't work, Mike. He is the owner of Prestige Classics, a luxury car dealership on Madison Pike. You know the place you always wanted to go but never got to. And it's all Mike. He's richer than you, he's smarter than you, and he's better in bed than you. Besides, he seems to be stronger and better with his fists than you. Why don't you just marry him if he's so damn good? That's why I keep you close, darling. Tony doesn't like children, and I am not going to give up mine to be with him. You get to play houseman and daddy, and Tony gets all the love. Why is this so hard for you to understand? And I should like this agreement? You have no choice. You either live with it, or the whole world will know what a loser you are. By the way, I'm moving all your things to the guest room. I don't think we need to share a bed anymore since the all is already out of the bag. I watched as Jenna stood up to leave. I was even glad that she left. Just curious, dear, but who took care of the children when you were out with Tony? Karen usually looked after them, but every now and then I dropped them off at your parents' house. Oh, by the way, it was Karen who introduced me to Tony. I made a mental note to thank Karen as Jenna left the room. I was discharged the next morning. Jenna was not present at discharge. I had a choice: call someone or take a taxi. The taxi won. The children were at school, and Jenna was not at home. All my clothes and personal items were stacked on the guest bed. I'm sure Tim and Jack will have questions about these preparations. I decided to let Jenna explain everything. It took less than an hour to get my new home in order. Meanwhile, all sorts of thoughts were spinning in my head. There was no way in hell this was going to end the way Jenna had planned. The first thing I did was go down to the basement and take out my old telephone recorder. This would only work on a landline, but I had no other choice. Jenna almost always called on her cell phone. It only took 20 minutes to scoop it up and hide it behind some old paint cans. This was the first step. I felt like crap, but I was good enough to go back to work. They gave me some pain pills, but I wasn't crazy enough to take them and then operate the machine. Instead, I took a couple of large Tylenol tablets. The only thing Jenna seriously miscalculated was in my relationships with the guys I worked with. I told them everything that happened the night before. Everyone had their own idea, both good and bad. It was nice to know that friends would always be there when you needed them. We had an 8-hour shift ready to start, and each of us was going to spend it figuring out how to help fix everything. We took a break for dinner mid-shift. Okay, anyone have an idea? Glenn was the first to speak. I have no idea, but I have a cousin who works for that son of a __. He does all the vehicle detailing. From what I understand, he hates Tony. If you need any information about the business, buildings, or work shifts, he can help you. This will definitely help me, Glenn. Anyone else? Danny, I have 2 shotguns and 2 pistols. I can provide any of them. None of them are registered, so there is nothing to worry about. Thanks, Barry, but that sounds a little more radical than I was hoping. Well, damn it. Then you won't even want to listen to my idea, Freddie said. Freddie chuckled lightly in response to this remark. Tell us, Freddie. Come on, tell us. I thought we could tie him to a tree with his legs spread and build a fire Indian style between his legs. Everyone really liked Freddie's idea, but unfortunately it had to be rejected. Kyle was the only one who didn't offer anything, so we all just stared at him while we ate our lunches. What? Don't look at me like that. Yes, I have an idea, but it's kind of strange. Spit it out, Kyle. I remember reading somewhere about a prison in Arizona where all the child molesters wore pink jumpsuits. It must have been humiliating. I know this Tony guy isn't a child molester, but something like this would embarrass the hell out of him. You mean put him in a pink tracksuit? Can't he just take it off? I thought if we could go in there, tie him up, and then spray him all over with pink paint, it could look spectacular. But then he will know who did it. First, we need to make him unconscious, and then leave him tied to a chair until he is found. But how do we do it? With drugs or hit him over the head? What do you mean? I can get a stun gun. All you have to do is sneak up and punch him. It's easier said than done. How do we get to him when he's alone? And how do we get close enough without him knowing? I don't know that. I just thought it was a good idea. The buzzer rang, and the machines were back to 4 hours of work. My quota for the night was lowered, so the other guys chipped in to match it. When I returned home, Jenna was already asleep. At least she kept her word not to bring that idiot into the house. I had no idea what I was going to do. Most of the things the boys and I talked about were like school pranks. I might as well put a flaming bag of dog poop on his doorstep. I needed real revenge. When I got up, it was already noon. The kids were at school, and I heard Jenna walking around the house. I quickly showered, shaved, and headed out the door. "Good morning, husband. Don't you have a kiss for your wife?" She stood at the kitchen sink with her hand on her hip and grinning. I just turned around and walked out. Her witty remark did not deserve a reply. I needed to have breakfast and be alone. I spent the rest of the day killing time. I was trying to figure out what I could do with my wife's sex buddy without causing too much havoc. I needed to finish work tonight and start getting ready. I decided not to eat at home anymore. It was about the only time I could spend with the boys, but I just couldn't bring myself to eat Jenna's cooking anymore. Before I knew it, it was time to work. Everything was going fine until the dinner break. "Danny, I have a stun gun in my car. I don't know if you can use it for anything, but at least you can have it for self-defense." Kyle seemed proud of himself. "Don't forget to pick it up before you go home. Have you ever used that damn thing? We can try. Who wants to become a volunteer?" The only response was a chorus of sighs around the table. No one had any new ideas, but they were all willing to support whatever I came up with. I felt better knowing that I had friends. When I returned home, everything was fine. It would be a short night for me. Working the graveyard shift kind of messes with your sleep habits, especially on weekends. I got up earlier than usual. Tim and Jack jumped at the chance to hang out at Funland. Jenna didn't seem to mind at all, especially when I told her we'd be out all day. "Danny, I need you to take a few days off next week. Tony's friend, Wally, will come over from Chicago and we'll take a 3-night, 4-day cruise to Mexico. If you can't do it, would you like to see if your parents can? Let me get this straight. Are you going on a cruise with 2 guys? This sounds too lame even for you. Don't be rude, Danny. It doesn't suit you. Wally will be sharing a room with Karen. They've been old friends for a couple of years now." "Well, damn it. I guess it's okay then." I tried my best to be sarcastic. "You'll definitely thank Karen later." Of course. I started the day too early to kill time before Funland opened. We went to Hobby Hall next to our house. The boys were big enough to assemble most of the plastic models that lined the shelves. The end results were nothing to brag about, but they had a lot of fun. I left them to explore hundreds of boxes and wandered around marveling at all the crap that was available for purchase for creative housewives. I guess if Jenna was into crafts, she wouldn't have brought home that hairy gorilla. But now it was too late. My eyes lit up when I discovered rows of designer spray paint. Here they are, 6 beautiful cans of pink spray paint. They didn't have as much paint as Lowe's or Home Depot, but they were pink. This was the only place I saw paint of that color in a can. Of course, I took this as a sign and bought all 6 cans. Tim ended up getting the monster truck kit, and Jack chose the tow truck. I didn't even know they made plastic tug models before we left. I also grabbed a bag of 10 large plastic cable ties. They were about 18 inches long and looked fit for the task ahead. By this time, Funland had opened. The kids spent about 4 hours and 2 pizzas before they ran out of steam. We grabbed a pack of cheap bread and headed to Willow Park. The ducks ate it all in the first 10 minutes. But we stayed a couple more hours before heading to my parents' house. Mom and Dad were happy to invite us for dinner. And in the evening, Tim and Jack spent most of the night watching TV, and I took advantage of this to tell Dad about Jenna's situation. I realized that I was actually telling people what was going on before Jenna could. She threatened to do the same thing I did myself. Damn it. Almost made her threat useless. Dad promised that they would be there to take care of the boys no matter what happened. This would make things a lot easier for my plan. I didn't want the boys to get hurt in this situation. Around 900, I called Jenna to tell her that we would be staying the night at my parents' house. I have a car after a big breakfast at IHOP. We returned home to find Jenna still in bed. I immediately turned on the lawnmower and walked back toward the bedrooms. Tim and Jack couldn't wait to start making their models even though it was a beautiful day outside. I let them go. I decided to spend the whole day working on the lawn. Edging and trimming needed to be done. Things weren't going as fast as usual because I stopped to chat often. I had some great hedge trimmers but decided to borrow them from Mike Fielding, who lives across the road. His wife Mary was one of the biggest gossips in the area. I explained to Mike that there might be strange cars parked outside the house because Jenna would be entertaining her male friends. Everything should be fine unless they get drunk and make noise. If this happens, just call the police. It will be difficult for me to control the situation since I work at night. Larry Finley served on the board of directors of a local church. I borrowed his spark plug key and apologized for Jenna's recent wild behavior. Of course, he wanted to know what I meant. Larry was an even bigger gossip than Mary Fielding. In 10 minutes, he had enough gossip fodder to last him a month. I didn't take a lunch break and finished work around 400 in the afternoon. After a quick shower, I headed to Rosie's Cafe and ordered the most expensive meal on the menu. I'm not sure if it was really like that, but it was actually delicious. I spent the rest of the evening with my brother Dave and his family. Dad had already explained to him what was happening. I spent the night on his couch. My wife had a great plan. She was going to force me to obey by threatening to expose me as a cuckold. If I refused to condone and support her infidelity, she would make my life miserable. It was an interesting idea, but it had a lot of holes. Less than a week later, I already told everyone what was happening. This seemed to neutralize her threat. I was also able to present her to everyone as more of an approachable woman than she would otherwise have been able to. I don't think she ever expected any reaction from me. The next day, I went home to change clothes for work, and there Jenna was waiting for me, seething with anger. "What the hell did you tell the neighbors? Karen said you told everyone that I run a brothel here at night." "Oh, __, that's not true, Jenna. I just told them that you entertain men while I'm at work and that they shouldn't worry about it." "Well, that's not what's happening now at all. Who else did you talk to?" "Everyone. I decided that I would tell them before you. It seemed much easier to me this way. I didn't say anything to your parents or sisters. Perhaps you should do this before they hear the rumors." "Damn it, Mike, you're making me look like a cheater." "Well, that's only fair. You wanted to make me look like a cuckold bastard." "Sorry, dear, but I have to go to work. I need to spend some time with the kids before I leave." The hardest thing for me was losing the quality time I wanted with them. Glenn had the best news of the night. Prestige Classics closed on Thursday at 900 so Tony could personally write all the checks for Friday. He hated being disturbed while doing payroll, so even the cleaning staff left. Kyle took a few minutes and showed me how to use the stun gun. No one has volunteered to check it yet. The plan was ready to be executed. If I get caught, as I fully expect, he'll face jail time. I didn't care. Tony needed to be humiliated. If I'm arrested, I will make sure that all newspapers and television channels receive full information. Any advertising like that would crush him or at least make him angry enough to do something stupid. For the next few days, I only went home to sleep, shower, and change clothes. Since that first day, I have never eaten at home. Finally, Thursday came. I arranged for my truck to run out of battery and for Kyle to pick me up. The floor attendant never bothered the slow guys much. As long as we met our quotas and the quality was good, they left us alone. One thing that would work in my favor is the OSHA requirements for this job. With aprons, gloves, and welding goggles, we all looked pretty much the same. At 830, I slipped out the back door. The guys will take turns working on my machine. One of these workplaces would periodically, of course, be empty, but no one would care. Bathroom breaks were common and were never supervised. The main thing was to create the illusion that I would not leave unnoticed. I walked through the service door of Prestige Classics and headed straight to the restroom. Around 900, someone quickly checked to see if the lights were off. 10 minutes later, I put on latex gloves and walked from the toilet into the dimly lit office. His desk overlooked the showroom, so his back was to the door. It looked like everything would be much easier than I expected. There was a computer in front of him, but he was hammering away at something on an old adding machine with paper tape. He never heard me approach. I hit Tony right in the back of the head with the stun gun. His body jerked upward, and I thought he was going to turn around, so I swung at him again. This time he jerked a few times and then relaxed. Perfect. I put 2 plastic wraps on each leg and 2 on each arm. I brought an old tie with me to use as a headband. He was very pliable. I wheeled his chair up to the glass display case next to the showroom. In the morning, when his people come to work, he will be visible. It was a nice pink color, but I had to use a lot more than I expected. The paint soaked into his clothes as quickly as I sprayed it. It took at least 3 coats on each area to get it to what I wanted. I had just enough paint, but barely. He looked very cute in pink. When I was done, I carefully packed everything back. I expected Tony to wake up while I was decorating him, but he never budged. I also planned to remove the blindfold before leaving. I glanced at my watch several times. I met my deadline, but I still wanted Tony to wake up before I left. After 5 minutes, I was already starting to worry. I tried to feel for a pulse, but to no avail. Maybe I didn't feel it because of the latex gloves. I took off my glove and tried again. There was still no pulse. I tried to feel the pulse in his neck like they did on TV. I still couldn't find anything. I took off the blindfold and touched his eyes with the tip of a pencil. He didn't blink an eye. There was no reflex. Needless to say, I started to panic. I had the presence of mind to put the latex glove back on and wipe off everything I might have touched. I put the tie in my pocket and then cut off all the plastic ties. There were visible marks that had no pink paint left on them when I removed them. It looked strange. The white skin under his tie made him look like a pink raccoon. I waited another minute to make sure I didn't miss anything, then left for work. On the way back to the store, I threw all my junk, including the stun gun, down the storm drain. 10 minutes later, I was sewing the brake pads again. Nobody noticed that I was absent. As soon as the shift ended, I told the guys what happened. They were all complicit, so I was pretty sure no one would say anything. Freddie was very impressed. None of them seemed bothered. Kyle drove me home, and we both mentally noted the time he dropped me off. I didn't sleep as long as usual. Around 1,000, Jenna burst into my room. "What the hell have you done? What have you done, you little bastard?" Of course, I just rolled over and looked at her puzzled. "What the hell are you talking about, woman? Tony is dead. Karen called and said he was found dead in the office this morning. I believe you had something to do with this, and I'll make sure you pay, you bastard." This was the second time she called me a bastard in the last 5 minutes. It was quite clear that I would not be able to sleep again, so I climbed out of bed and went to the toilet. I was in no hurry to face the Wicked Witch of the East, so I took a long, hot shower and slowly shaved. I even sprayed on a little aftershave to annoy my loving wife. I never made it to the coffee pot. A tall black man stood in the living room talking to Jenna. He had a very short haircut and was wearing a dark suit. This woman called the police, there was no doubt about it. I shook my head and walked into the kitchen to drink my first cup of the day. Jenna smirked sarcastically as I sat down in my favorite chair. My uninvited guest also sat down. "Mr. Mercer, my name is Detective Darnell Green. I'm here about the death of Anthony DeMarco last night. Your wife reported that you and Mr. DeMarco had a disagreement last week, and I would like to ask you a few questions. Certainly I have no objections, but not here. What do you have in mind? If you want to talk, let's do it in your office, not at my house. Are you okay with that?" I couldn't help but notice Jenna's frown. I was pretty sure she was expecting to be included in the discussion. "My car or yours, Mr. Mercer? I have something else to do, so I'll meet you there." "Any special office?" "Second floor, back room, 206. Just turn right when you exit the elevator. See you soon." Jenna fumed when I put on my shoes. I didn't finish my coffee, so I just threw it down the sink. I turned and walked out the door with a smile. "I think you'll get what you wanted, honey. What are you talking about? What the hell do you mean, Mike?" 10 minutes later, I was sitting with Detective Green on the second floor of the municipal building. Over the next hour, Detective Green asked all the right questions, and I had all the right answers. He tried to be careful about this matter, not ignoring it or rubbing it in my face. Of course, I had to admit that I had a motive, but I never had the opportunity to do anything about it. It was a serious situation, but I tried my best to be friendly without making a smartass of myself. I think he appreciated the fact that I made his job easier, and even thought that he had no questions left for me. The most interesting part of the discussion was the revelation that Tony died of some kind of heart problem. He had a pacemaker installed a couple of years ago, and I don't think it went well with the stun gun. Of course, they knew about the stun gun from the marks on his neck. I was very sorry that Tony died, but at the same time, I was glad. Detective Green gave the usual "don't leave town" speech and said he would get back to talking to me after checking my alibi. Wow, I never thought I'd need an alibi for anything. It was quite exciting. We parted on good terms. I felt like Darnell Green was on my side. It made me feel warm throughout my body. I took some food and watched the news on TV. There was a passage about the death of a local businessman. He noted that he had no known relatives. I emptied my bank accounts and then found time to have a nice breakfast. There was something to do at home. When I returned, Jenna was not there. It took me half an hour to move all my things back into the master bedroom and Jenna's things into the guest room. The guest room had one small closet and one chest of drawers. I put everything on the bed for her to put away. I checked the telephone in the basement and found nothing significant on it. I collected all the bank and insurance documents, as well as other important papers. I was glad that the Volvo Jenna was in my name. It made everything easier. Everything went into a folder under the front seat of my truck. I called into work and took 2 weeks off. A few hours later, my loving wife appeared. She seemed surprised to find me at home. It was time to restore order again. I smiled and led her to the guest room. "What the hell is this? Who the hell are you?" In response, I smiled widely. "Answer me, damn it, what's going on?" "Anyway, Jenna, from now on I will be living in the master bedroom. You can take the guest room. I suggest you start putting your clothes away. Anything that is not in the closet or dresser for dinner will be removed. Have questions? I can't fit my things in this small closet, and I'm not going to stay in this room anyway. What the hell do you mean by deleted? If you can't fit it in a closet or dresser, you don't need it." "That won't happen, Mike. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it won't work. You are dead meat. I suggest you start putting things in order. If you have any more questions, I'll come back later. Bastard." Today was the third time she called me a bastard. I must be doing something right. While Jenna was busy in the guest room, I threw her purse on the kitchen table. I took my time collecting everything I wanted. First, I took her mobile phone and then the car keys. From her wallet, I took out her driver's license and all her credit and debit cards. I put back everything that was left. I took her car papers out of the truck and drove the Volvo across town to a friend of mine who had a car lot. I immediately sold it to him at a good price, agreeing that he would sell it outside the city. Even with the payments, I ended up with a few extra bucks in my pocket. I was just getting ready to go to Taco Bell for lunch when my cell phone rang. "Son of a __, what did you do with my cell phone and where the hell is my car?" I was happy that she didn't call me a bastard anymore. She was calling from her home phone. That was a good sign. I can check the records when I get back home. "I'm so sorry, honey. I needed money to hire a lawyer to defend me against murder charges. I promised to buy you another car as soon as I get out of prison." She was still cursing on the other end of the line when I hung up and turned off my cell phone. After this conversation, I decided that a lawyer would be a really good idea. No matter what happened, I had no intention of staying married. That would have to wait, though, because I was next in line to order. Tim and Jack were home when I got there. I went straight to my sons and ignored Jenna altogether. I did glance in her direction a few times and noticed that she was not a happy tourist. The boys were eager to show me the models they had put together. As Jenna began preparing dinner, I wandered down the hallway to the guest room. All my clothes were back on the bed. All of Jenna's clothes went back to the master bedroom. I chuckled to myself but decided not to fight it now. She was firm in her thoughts, and full of determination. Jenna told the boys to wash up for dinner, and I went to the guest room to get my things back together. I would really like to throw away all her things, but that would be too childish. Red Lobster was my place for dinner tonight. Money wasn't an issue because I still had cash left over after I gave the divorce lawyer the deposit. The shrimp and lobster combination was great, but the cheese buns were still my favorite dish. Having finished eating, the cell phone rang again. I was hoping one of the guys from work or Detective Green would call. No luck since the first call was from my wife. "Danny, how can I go to the store now? We need milk and a few other things. I'll take you when I get home. Try to arrange it so that we can go shopping on Saturdays when I don't work. I'll feel safer if you don't go shopping alone." A third call was from Kyle. Detective Green spoke with the entire team individually and as a group. All their stories were confirmed. Tom Tingle, floor manager, was the strongest supporter. He insisted that there was no way I could quit my job. He kept a tight rein on all his men and could guarantee that I was there all night. I knew I wasn't that smart. If any investigator wanted to prove that I killed Tony DeMarco, I'm sure he could do it. I had the feeling that no one cared. I got home just in time to put the boys to bed. Jenna was sitting on the sofa with a glass of wine. I took a cold Foster's out of the refrigerator and settled comfortably in my chair. The TV wasn't on, so I decided now was the time to talk to Jenna. "So, Jenna, how is the plan to turn me into a wimp and a cuckold going?" Well, that ended the conversation before it even started. She finished her wine, stood up, and headed to her bedroom. I thought she wanted to talk. I guess I was wrong. I grabbed my beer and went to check the recorder. The first thing she did was call her sister. Everything was extremely open there. It turned out that Marge knew everything about the affair with Tony and supported Jenna in every possible way. That was nice to know. The next call was to Jenna's mom, and it was a little different. Mom had no idea what was happening. Her daughter convinced her that Tony was Karen's friend and that I was jealous because I had been trying to have sex with Karen for years. Tony lectured me about it, and I got angry. She never said I killed him, but that's definitely what she concluded. She called the cell phone company to see if she could get a replacement for the phone I borrowed and had no success. She then called the DMV and reported that I had taken her driver's license. They told her to report it to the police. She called the bank to ask for a replacement credit card but was told the account was closed. Let me put it this way, she was a busy little girl. The last call on the answering machine was Karen. Karen only lived a few houses away, so I have no idea why they used the phone instead of just meeting. Of course, this worked to my advantage. I learned two important things from that call. Wally still had to come from Chicago, and Jenna was going to lay low and not make a fuss until he got here. The next day, the guys and I got up very early. We left the house before Jenna woke up. We returned home after lunch, and Jenna insisted that I take her to the grocery store. She needed things, and since she no longer had a car or driver's license, I had to take care of it. That evening, while she was preparing dinner, I checked the recorder. Wally arrived, and the first person he called was Jenna. It was an interesting conversation. He believed everything Jenna told him and vowed revenge. Wally and Tony grew up together, and he didn't want to let that go so easily. He gave Jenna his address and told her to call him the next day when she had a chance. Jenna immediately called Karen and enthusiastically began telling her how happy she was. I couldn't believe that this was the same woman I had been married to all these years. The change was so sudden and complete. I had no idea that what I did was so bad that I deserved it, other than killing her lover. Before I went to bed, I went out to get something to eat. Of course, the lawn needed to be mowed again, so the next day I had a good excuse to avoid Jenna. Around 1100, Jenna's mom and dad arrived to pick up the boys. I had no idea that a sleepover with my in-laws was planned, but I decided not to protest. Tomorrow was a school day, and Grandma Wilcox promised that they would get them there on time. I was eager to check my phone record, but lunch came first since I had skipped breakfast. After a quick shower, I went to see Dennis. Jenna didn't say a word about the fact that I didn't eat at home anymore. Jenna and Wally hatched a plan to avenge Tony's death. It all looked quite comical. Probably everything would have been different if I didn't know what was happening. After Jenna and I go to bed, Wally will enter the house through the sliding door on the back deck. She promised him that the door would not be locked. If everything goes according to plan, it will look like I was shot during an attempted robbery. If they heard the gunshot, Jenna and Karen would have called 911. I know it sounds stupid, but at that moment I remembered that I had not changed the beneficiaries on my insurance policies. I gave my wife a sarcastic kiss as I walked out the door and got the finger in return. I had dinner with my parents and spent the evening there. Before I left, I borrowed my dad's snake charmer. A short-barreled 20-shot would be perfect for today's party. When I got home, Jenna was already in bed, but she had the light on, so I assumed she was reading. The only call on the answering machine was from Karen. She was bragging about the amazing sex she and Wally had been enjoying all day. Before she said goodbye, she promised Jenna that everything would be ready later that night. It took me about 20 minutes to replace the shot in the shells with rock salt. I had a full bag left over from last winter. I didn't want to kill Wally, just stop him. Damn it, I didn't want to kill Tony either. I was hoping Wally didn't have as bad a pump as Tony. I wanted to check the door to the back deck, but I was afraid Wally might see me. I had to assume Jenna had left it unlocked. I stripped down to my underpants and mixed up the blankets on the bed. It would have been nice to have a cup of coffee, but it wasn't ready, so I settled for Coca-Cola. I waited in my chair with my cell phone next to me. He appeared only after midnight. As soon as I saw him on the terrace, I dialed 911 and reported an intruder in my house. I carefully said that I was afraid for my life. I didn't hang up. The patio door slid open quietly and Wally appeared. I waited until he was fully inside the house and then fired the first shot. I was aiming for his lower body because I didn't want to accidentally kill the son of a __. The first shot threw him back onto the terrace. When the second bullet hit him, he fell off the terrace, breaking the railing. I knew I didn't kill him because he howled like a stuck pig. God, that rock salt must have really hurt. I was amazed at how loud the shot sounded in the house. My ears were ringing like a bell. I turned on the light, and within seconds, Jenna was standing in the living room screaming. She was actually shouting something at me, but I couldn't make out the words. I went over to see how Wally was doing and saw a .22 caliber Ruger automatic pistol with a silencer on the floor. Jenna was still screaming, so I pointed the shotgun in her direction. She quickly shut up and ran out of the room. It looks like Wally broke his ankle when he fell. Some guys just get lucky. 10 minutes later, the first black and white car arrived. There wasn't much discussion there. I put the gun on the floor so there would be no misunderstanding of what was happening. I pointed to the phone, and one of the officers told the 911 operator that everything was under control. They asked who else was in the house, and I told them about Jenna in the bedroom. They brought her into the living room and discovered that they had made a big mistake. She had a mile of swearing coming out of her mouth a minute. I tried to distance myself from her while the police tried to shut her up. None of us succeeded. Finally, a woman in uniform, larger than usual, gently took her hand and led her outside. I noticed Karen standing outside with other neighbors. I smiled at her and slowly ran my index finger down her throat. She turned and quickly walked away, restoring my good mood. The ambulance arrived for Wally at the same time Detective Green arrived. When he saw me, he smiled, and I answered him with a wide smile. I wasn't trying to be a smart-ass, but I just couldn't help myself. The Amazon cop brought Jenna back to the house so she could get dressed. She calmed down a little. After I got dressed, we all went to the police department. I insisted that we ride in separate cars, and Detective Green allowed me to go with him. We didn't talk on the way to the center, but he looked at me and smiled again. It was already light when Green released me. We only talked for about half an hour, but they kept me close all night. I felt like I was in Guantanamo Bay because they constantly forced me to drink coffee. One of the black and white cars took me home. I was a little disappointed because I was expecting to see yellow tape around the house. This place looked like nothing had happened. The rock salt didn't even break through the glass side door. I think Wally got most of it. I figured it would take about an hour to fix the broken railings. I collapsed on the bed and woke up only after lunch. After emptying my bladder, I wandered into the kitchen and found my friendly detective sitting at the table, reading the newspaper and drinking fresh coffee, which I assumed he had made while I was sleeping. I'd had as much coffee as I wanted the night before, so I settled for a large glass of orange juice and sat down across from him. "I have no idea how he got into the house. You're a very tough guy, Mr. Mercer." He didn't even look up from the newspaper. I didn't know how to respond to this, so I remained silent. I couldn't understand whether he was playing with me or not. He finished his coffee. "Detective Green, I need to shower, shave, and get something to eat. I will do this unless it is against police regulations. Take your time, Danny. I have the whole day ahead of me." Walking into the shower, I wondered when he slept. Lunch consisted of 2 large sandwiches with stewed pork. Green even joined me, washing it all down with beer. Neither of us said a word, and after a while the silence became unbearable. "You're dying to ask me some questions, aren't you, Mr. Mercer? It's funny, but I thought the same about you." My detective friend waved to the waiter and ordered 2 more beers. "I've been asking you questions all night. Now you." "Okay, first of all, where is my wife?" "We're still holding her. She will be arraigned this afternoon." I finished my beer. "Your wife's parents hired her a lawyer. I didn't expect this." Now I had 100 more questions, but the trouble was that the more questions I asked, the more I risked exposing myself. I decided it would be best to retreat. It was nice to see that Jenna's family was there because I wasn't going to be there. "I have no further questions, Detective Green, but if you feel the need to unburden yourself, you can start at any time." He took a long sip of his beer and laughed, not loudly but definitely. "And one more thing. Did you, by any chance, eavesdrop on or tape your wife's conversation with Mr. Williams? I assume you mean Wally?" This made me smile slightly. "If I had such a film, would you need it?" "I don't know yet. If things go the way I think they will, it won't matter. But if one of them gets a good lawyer, maybe. If I had a tape like that, wouldn't it get me into trouble?" "Here you are absolutely right. I'm just trying to make my job easier. I'll see what I can do without the cassette, which may or may not exist." I nodded slightly in gratitude. "Danny, baby, I think I should take you home. Your boys will be home from school soon, and they need their father." We arrived at the house just as the school bus dropped Tim and Jack off. They approached us, and I introduced them to my new detective friend. They wanted to see his badge. Everything seemed pleasant enough until Green leaned forward and said, "So which one of you built the tugboat, and which one built the monster truck?" "I built a truck," Tim shouted, puffing out his chest. "I made a tug. Do you want to watch it?" Jack was proud too. "Maybe next time I'll have a chance to look at them. And now it's time for me to go." He left me standing there, stunned, and walked to his car with a big smile on his face. That son of a _ knew about pink paint. He had my balls in his hand, and I couldn't do anything about it. That evening we ordered pizza. The boys never asked where their mother was. After dinner, Jenna's father called and said he needed help raising bail money to get her out of jail. I tried to be as polite as possible when I turned him down. I'm not sure he understood what was going on, but at least he was trying to be a good father. I asked him where she was going to stay. He hesitated a little and then said that she would stay with them. The boys and I loaded all of Jenna's things into the pickup truck and unloaded them at Jenna's parents' house. We collected everything without difficulty. When we got home, I noticed a U-Haul truck in Karen's driveway. The next morning, he disappeared. Jenna never called me. I had to read the newspaper every day to find out what was happening. Nobody told me anything. In fact, it was almost as if I was being deliberately left out. There was no trial. Jenna blamed it on Wally. Wally claimed it was all her idea. Ultimately, they both asked for clemency. Jenna received 3 to 5 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Wally received 5 to 10 years for attempted murder. Several federal people were called in about the muffler Wally had. They decided to wait until Wally finished his explanation before making changes. Detective Green didn't need the tape and never mentioned it again. Karen disappeared and was never seen or heard from again. My father was glad to have his shotgun back and promised that I could borrow it again if I needed it. He chuckled when he said this. I served Jenna with divorce papers as soon as she began serving her prison sentence. She didn't object. I had a feeling she didn't want anything to do with me because I hadn't seen or spoken to her since the night I shot Wally. I sold the house and moved back to my parents. I couldn't work or look after the boys myself. The guys at work were glad to see me back. For some reason, I was offered the opportunity to switch to the day shift, but I declined. I took the boys to the municipal women's prison to visit their mother every month. I waited in the car because they were usually there for less than an hour. Sometimes, in good weather, meetings took place outside. I was able to park and watch them through the chain-link fence. I never asked them about these visits and asked them not to tell me anything. It seemed to work great for all of us. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until I got a call. Hello, is this Mike Mercer? Yes, my name is Angela Hawkins. A detective named Darnell Green said I should call you. We need to discuss something. I know Detective Green, but why do you want to talk to me? Tony DeMarco was my brother. Oh, __. Just when I thought all this crap was behind me, something like this was about to happen. I don't think this is a good idea. I'm sorry for your loss, but there's nothing I can do to help you. I hung up before she could say anything else. 2 days later, she called again. Mike, I would be very grateful if you could visit me. I need to say something. Detective Green said you're a reasonable person. Where did you want to meet? I would prefer to do this at a car dealership, but any location that is convenient for you is fine with me. It took me a few seconds to come up with something. Meet me on Saturday at 10 a.m. in the exhibition hall. I will take my 2 sons with me. They like looking at old cars. I didn't know what she meant, but in a public place with boys, I felt safer. I wasn't using them as a shield or anything, but I felt that she would be less inclined to do anything if they were with me. I had no idea what kind of malice this woman harbored. If she was Tony's sister, then she was Italian. If she was Italian, then she had hot blood. If she's got hot blood, I have to be careful. At this point, I decided I was thinking too much. I needed a beer. I called Detective Green and asked him what was going on. He laughed and told me to meet her and stop worrying. It was easy for him to talk because he didn't kill her brother. The Prestige Classic was a big, impressive place. In addition to the main showroom, they had 2 large buildings in the back holding cars in need of restoration or awaiting space on the showroom floor. I was shocked when we pulled up to see that they were having a big opening party. I didn't expect this. There were a lot of things I didn't understand yet. Jack and Tim seemed torn between cars and freebies. The first impression was the smell from the popcorn maker. A guy in soft boots and a rubber nose was handing out small bags of hot-popped kernels. Off to the side stood a soda fountain and another clown with a hot dog cart. The guys won't need lunch today. It was not difficult to recognize Angela Hawkins. I realized this immediately as soon as I noticed that she was walking straight towards me with a slow and decisive gait. Everything about her spoke of an Italian dark hair, dark eyes, olive complexion, and wide hips. I don't think a gentleman would have noticed her hips, but they were emphasized by her height, 5 feet at the most. Tony was huge, and his sister was short and wide. I felt myself getting a little excited as she got closer, and then I noticed a smaller clone next to her. The girl looked about 10 years old and was an exact copy of Angela, only her hair was a little lighter, and naturally, there were no hips at all. It looked like my interloper was covering up just like me. We were a pretty miserable couple, both using our children for safety. As she closed the distance between us, her hand extended in a friendly manner. Mike Mercer, I presume. It was quite natural and polite to shake her hand. I've always wanted to say this, like in the movie about Dr. Livingston. She smiled but seemed a little nervous, which made me feel a little better. I stood there dumb and she continued to talk. This is my daughter, Carla. Tim smiled politely back and said his name, but Jack held out his hand to her with a grin. Carla, why don't you show the boys around while I talk to their father? Jack immediately followed Carla into the showroom while Tim headed to the hot dog stand. I took this as a good sign. We can talk here, downstairs, or upstairs in my office. I think the office will be fine. Those were the first words out of my mouth. As we walked towards the stairs leading to the elevated office, I noticed several employees looking in my direction and exchanging comments. Angela noticed this too and smiled at my embarrassment. The salespeople downstairs were wearing blue bowling shirts, so they were easy to spot. Unfortunately, they all seemed more interested in me than in the customers. One guy at the far end of the building smiled broadly at me and gave me a thumbs up. I smiled back but was a little nervous. "Did Detective Green tell you anything about my situation?" I didn't answer but just shook my head to show that he didn't do it. "I don't want to bore you with my life story, but I think there's something you need to know. Tony was my brother and only relative. There is no other family. When Tony died, he didn't have a will. Since I was the only relative, I inherited his business. The lawyer took a big chunk, but I still got more than I expected. I was glad to see that someone got something useful out of this whole mess. While she was explaining something to me, I noticed that she had pierced ears and a wedding ring on her finger. She had a small silver cross hanging around her neck, but I had a hard time seeing it because my eyes kept focusing on her cleavage. I was just starting to remember how long it had been since I had sex when she interrupted me. "Mr. Mercer, what did you notice?" It was a trick question. She smiled when she asked this question. "I'm really sorry, I was just admiring your crucifix." I told myself to concentrate and look only into her eyes when she hit me on the hand. "Would you like some beer?" That would be a good idea. There was a small refrigerator next to the table, and she had to bend over to get the drinks. One moment, I was forced to look at her cleavage, and the next, I saw a beautiful ass staring me straight in the face. She didn't explain anything to me, she just tried to seduce me. It may not have been intentional, but it worked damn well. She opened the lid and handed me the jar, trying not to lean over. We both took a few sips without saying a word. "Well, Miss Hawkins, I'm glad everything worked out for you, but I don't know why I'm here. It's time for me to get back to the guys before they start to worry. It will be better if you call me Angela. Can I call you Mike?" "Well, of course. Are we done here?" "No, damn it. Just sit there and don't move until I'm done. Detective Green said you would understand." I didn't answer. If I keep my mouth shut, she'll do it faster. Tony was a bastard. He was a worthless son of a _ and deserved to die. As strange as it may sound, I wanted to thank you. It was a trap. That damn detective set me up. Was the room bugged, or was it her? It's entirely possible that she has a bug hidden in her bra. Damn it, I was looking at her cleavage again. Do you have a wire or some kind of recording device? Of course not. Why would I do something like that? I finished my beer, although I was still not convinced. Maybe I better go down and see what the boys are up to. I wouldn't want them to get in trouble. Just sit down. She seemed pretty confident. There was no love between me and Tony. About 3 years ago, my husband died in an accident. He had no life insurance, and the guy who hit him had no insurance at all. I didn't have any work skills and had a daughter in my arms to raise. Tony was my only relative, so I asked him for help. He paid some of my husband's funeral expenses, and that was it. He didn't even answer my calls. Are you saying that his death was a good thing for you? Yes, and obviously for you too. Maybe we should both be grateful for what happened and leave it at that. Angela smiled and finished her beer. You don't want to talk about this anymore, do you? I nodded and began to rise from the chair. I need your service. You are the only one who can help me. What can I do for you? I want you to come and work for me as a general manager. You are crazy. I don't know anything about the car business, especially fancy cars like yours. I know that myself. I have people to take care of it. Why do you need me? Angela seemed a little nervous. She looked first at her feet, then at the walls. Her eyes darted around as she tried to find the words. Did you see how my people looked at you when you came to the office with me? Well, yes, they didn't even smile. They all think you killed Tony. Not only did you kill him, but you made a laughingstock out of him when you did it. They were all afraid of Tony. They seem to be afraid of you now. Their fear is like respect. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Do they not respect you? No. They're going to tear me apart left and right, and there's not a damn thing I can do about it. What good can I do? Mostly just be here. After a while, we will both be able to learn the business well enough to be able to control what happens. Until then, I need you to intimidate them. I'm a good guy, Angela. That's why Tony and my wife tried to take advantage of me. Well, it didn't work out too well for them, did it? For some strange reason, I found this funny and even laughed a little. Over the next 30 minutes, Angela and I discussed the terms. She had no problem exceeding the salary and benefits that I received at the factory. If things don't work out, I can always come back. I really didn't want to go back. I wanted things to get better. Tim didn't look good when we got downstairs. Too many hot dogs and too much soda. Jack, on the other hand, was having a great time. He seemed to be talking to Carla more than looking at cars. This was definitely a good sign. Tim threw up in the truck on the way home and missed dinner. On Monday, I started work. Everything went exactly as Angela predicted. I was amazed at how quickly I was able to familiarize myself with this work. I became close to several employees and soon had my eye on them. The blue shirt that gave me a big smile on the first day was Glenn's cousin, who was my biggest supporter. Most employees wanted the business to prosper and were more than willing to work quietly. Angela let me take up shooting, and I discovered that I enjoyed it. I truly lived up to my reputation. Detective Green stopped by for coffee a few times, but the conversation was usually light and friendly. I finally got him to open up a little. 3 years ago, I was a police officer in Philadelphia. One day, I came home and found my wife in bed with my boss. I beat the crap out of him on the spot and threw my wife out. The police department gave me the choice to quit or be fired. A week later, I had a job here. Before I left, I made sure that the son of a __ who was sleeping with my wife was also fired. I didn't bother asking him for more information. It was his own business. At least I understood why he seemed to be leaning on my side. The boys agreed not to tell their mother about my new job. On visiting days, they made a few comments about the long trip, but seemed to understand that they had no choice. I felt it was important for Jenna to see her sons, but I did it not for her sake, but to rub salt in her wounds. I know this is a disgusting way to use your children, but I got some sneaky pleasure from it. Angela and I spent more time together at work and after work. One weekend, the boys insisted that I take her and Carla to Lakeview Park. Most of the time, we just stayed close to home. Living conditions seemed to make any chance of a romantic relationship difficult. I was definitely interested in a closer relationship with Angela, but it was awkward. I still lived in my parents' house with the boys, and Angela and Carla had a small one-room apartment. Since things were going much better than expected, Angela started talking about buying a house. She spent a lot of time on the computer searching for the perfect option. I received my first call when she explained why she wanted a 4-bedroom apartment. Danny, I think it's very important that each of the boys have their own room. It's better to take care of these things now than later. Don't you agree? Of course, I immediately realized that the question was rigged. I also realized that Angela saw me as more than just an employee. The potential for romance looked better. Yes, I think that's a great idea. I also think a split-bedroom plan would be a good thing to consider. I don't like that they are too close to the master bedroom. Having said that, I left the office and noticed a slight smile on her face. It was a strange relationship. We never had sex or even came close to it. We never even kissed. But I felt closer to her than I had to Jenna in 10 years. 2 days later, when I was finally divorced from Jenna, we all went to Red Lobster to celebrate. The kids didn't know the reason for the party, but Angela did. Later back home, the kids were watching pay-per-view when Angela cornered me in the kitchen and stood on her tiptoes to kiss me. We were hugging and giggling when Carla came into the room. "Oops, sorry, Mom." Turning to leave, she added, "It's about time." When we returned to the living room, Carla was whispering something in Jack's ear, and they were both smiling. Angela and I were on our best behavior for the rest of the evening, but I was looking forward to what would happen next. The next day, while the kids were at school, Angela and I had a long lunch and returned home. We both had a lot of pent-up energy to burn off. We returned to work just before the end of the working day. There were many long lunches after that, and Angela began to get serious about finding a home. Detective Green came by regularly, mostly just to chat, but from time to time he would glance at the cars. He fell in love with a Studebaker hawk that used to belong to a famous film critic. Angela gave him a good price. "Danny, I need you to take me to see Jenna." This was an unexpected request. The boys and I went there less often than before, but Jenna never seemed to complain. "Any special reason?" "Close business I need to finish." I still didn't understand what this meant. I knew all the words that described it, but the concept seemed to elude me. "Do you want me to go with you? Just take me there. You don't have to be with me while I'm talking to her." It was a warm, sunny autumn day when we arrived at the municipal prison. The meetings with the prisoners took place on the street, so I parked near the fence. 10 minutes later, Jenna and Angela walked out into the courtyard and sat down at one of the tables. They both chatted and smiled as if they were long-lost friends. 5 minutes later, things got even more interesting. The smile disappeared from Jenna's face. Now she stood, leaning over the picnic table, scowling at her guest. Angela, on the other hand, still seemed happy. Jenna suddenly rushed across the table and tried to grab her. The chaos was quickly quelled by several security guards as they led my ex-wife back into the building, kicking and screaming. Angela turned and looked at me, smiled and shrugged before leaving the visitor area. She was still smiling when she returned to the car. "What the hell does this all mean? Your ex-wife is a very touchy ___." Angela seemed to giggle to herself. We drove a few more miles, and then she turned slightly, tightening her seatbelt. I introduced myself, and she seemed happy to see me. Everything was fine as long as she thought I was on her side. I admit that I misled her a little at first. "What do you have in mind?" I told her I came from Baltimore to get revenge. This seemed to make her happy because she thought I meant revenge against you. Of course, all I really meant was that I was going to get even with Tony by taking over his business. I think you can still take revenge on a dead person, right? Okay, but what made her so upset? She wanted to know the details, like when, where, and how. Of course, I knew she meant you, and now I got interested. I told her it would take a long, long time and asked if she wanted me to keep her informed of what was going on. She readily agreed and insisted on knowing exactly how I planned to do it. When I told her how I was going to do it, she blew her mind. She lost it. She just went crazy. That was great. "Okay, fine. How the hell are you going to kill me? And now I want to know." Her smile grew even wider. I told her I was going to do sex with you to death, and that was all. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I thought she might get angry, but I never expected her to cross the line. There was silence for a few moments. We both sat and smiled. I was so proud of her. "When do you plan to launch this attack?" "As soon as we get to the next motel, silly." 2 months later, Angela and I got married. It was a small ceremony in the backyard of our new home. Angela sent Jenna a wedding invitation with a small note inside. "Everything goes according to plan. He should die in 40 to 50 years. Thanks for tuning into this wild story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping tales." What would you do if you were in Mike's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, the next story is even crazier. You won't want to miss it. That morning, I felt like my whole world was falling apart. Waking up in a daze, I struggled to figure out how to break the news to my daughter, Emma. Just the night before, I had seen her boyfriend, Chris, making out with her so-called friend, Amy, at the mall. This wasn't a simple hug or kiss, it was a full-blown makeout session. Emma would be heartbroken, and I didn't want to be the one to crush her spirit right before her volleyball team's district semifinal match. On the way home after the match, I decided it would be best to tell her the bad news. It was better for her to hear it from me than to find out some other way. I tried to distract myself by thinking about my meeting that afternoon with my boss, Mr. Reynolds. He had introduced me to an elderly man named Robert Jenkins. I had no idea why I was in my boss's office, so I just shook Robert's hand and waited. VJJDE just finished negotiating the purchase of Superior Buffers in Tampa. DJJJK, Mr. Reynolds announced. VDAJNJI, you just met the previous owner, Robert. We're starting work at the beginning of the year, and I want you to lead our maintenance staff. I know you've been unhappy with your chances for advancement here, but we're promoting you. You'll be working with Robert between now and the end of the year. He'll introduce you to everyone and bring you up to speed. You know our equipment like the back of your hand, so this will be a walk in the park for you. I have only one question. Are you ready to move to Tampa? Included in the factory sale is a 2-bedroom apartment owned by Robert's company. You can move your family there immediately and live there for the next year without paying rent. By then, you should know if this is right for you or if you want to buy your own home in Tampa. Before you answer, I must say that this position includes a 25% salary increase. How long will it take you to think it over? DJ KJ, I answered immediately. VJNJ, my wife Laura, always complains about the winters here in Ohio. Her biggest fear was that it'd be transferred to a plant in Michigan. When I mentioned the pay raise in Tampa, she'll be thrilled. She can easily transfer her work to the nearest Home Depot. I'll gladly take on this job. DJ KJ, VDJNJ, then everything is decided. Why don't you take my company car and drive Robert back to the airport, then take the rest of the day off? DJ KJ, Mr. Reynolds suggested. I chuckled to myself as I dropped Robert off and headed away from the airport terminal. Suddenly, everything started to look good. Emma could move to Tampa for her last semester of high school and forget about her loser boyfriend. Everything was falling into place, but then Laura drove a red Honda Civic like a million others. Last week, a young driver had backed into her car while it was parked at work, bending the front grille quite badly. Most of the plastic had fallen off, but some bent metal remained, exposing the radiator. As I drove by, I noticed a red Civic with a damaged radiator parked in front of the Best Western Motel a couple of blocks from the airport. My heart pounded as I turned to the far end of the parking lot. There was an empty space next to the Civic, so I parked. Considering the situation, I wasn't a violent man, but if Laura didn't have a good enough explanation for why her car was at the motel, she was in serious trouble. Gradually calming down, I realized that she had never seen the company car I was driving, and the windows were tinted, perhaps more than was legal in the state. I decided to just wait until Laura came out to her car to see who was with her. After waiting a couple of minutes, I realized that just sitting around wasn't enough, so I came up with a simple plan. Laura's spare tire was still in the garage where I had left it after repairing it a few days ago. I knew Laura would call me to bring the spare tire if she got a flat. With a furtive glance around, I slipped out of the car with my jackknife open and cut the valve stem on the spare tire mounted on the left rear of Laura's car. When I climbed into the back seat of the company car, the tire was already flat. Then I sat back and waited, none too patiently. Half an hour later, I heard a curse very close to my car window, which I lowered half an inch. VDJNJ, damn it, what should I do now? DJ KJ, VDJNJ, no problem, sexy lady. After a lunch like the one we just had, I'll be happy to help you, VDJ KJ, came the man's response as my world collapsed around me. VDJNJ, I don't have a spare tire. My husband didn't put the wheel back in the car after he fixed it. It's in the garage at home, VJKJ, Laura complained. VVJNJ, what a worthless idiot. DJ KJ, Laura's lover, grinned. VJNJ, I always make sure my wife's car is in good condition. I don't want her stuck somewhere with the kids. Now I regret that I didn't go myself but went with you. What do we do? DJK, VDJNJ, let's go back to our room and warm up while I call, VJKJ, Laura suggested. As the loving couple headed back to the motel, I waited for the phone to ring. I thought about how I would question Laura when she called, especially when she asked me to take the tire to the Don't Tell motel near the airport. The only problem with this plan was that my phone didn't ring. 20 minutes later, a familiar Ford Focus pulled into the parking lot and parked on the other side. I thought it couldn't get worse, but I was wrong. My daughter, Emma, was delivering help to her deceiving mother. Emma knocked on the motel door and waited a full minute before the door opened. I couldn't make out what Emma said, but she turned and walked to her car, opened the trunk, picked up the wheel, and placed it on the sidewalk as Laura and her boyfriend approached. VDNJ Frank, get this for Emma. She has to play tonight and can't be injured or tired before the match even starts. DJKJ, Laura worried. VJANEJ, thank you for your concern, Mom. If you were thinking about me, you could have already gotten dressed when I arrived. I need to rush to school and get ready for the match. Can you take it from here, VJKJ? Emma asked, clearly annoyed. VJJNJ, no problem, Mom, VJKJ replied, the guy who I now knew was Frank. VDJJNJ, as soon as I get the tire on, your mom will drop me off at Home Depot where my car is parked. I'll have time to watch you play tonight. I'll be rooting for you. DJK VJJNJ, thank you, Frank. Just don't sit too close to Mom. Dad will be there, and I don't want any drama while I'm playing. JKJ VJNJ, don't worry. I won't harm your father. VJKJ, Frank laughed. VJNJ, I doubt he'll ever figure out what's going on, and even if he did, he'd never question me. He knows it won't do him any good. JKJ VJNJ, Frank, I asked you not to talk about Jim like that. He is my husband and Emma's father. He's a good man and deserves some respect, VDJKJ, my loving wife responded. Emma looked at her mother. VJNJ, respect? In what world would your actions be considered respect for him? I just want to finish school before I get divorced. DJKJ VJNJ, I told you that I love your father and there will be no divorce. We will die in each other's arms, DJKJ, Laura insisted. VJ and Jim, afraid you're a little delirious. Daddy won't tolerate you having boyfriends, and sooner or later he'll catch you with only one, and Frank is not the guy. We're just friends with benefits, VJKJ, Laura replied. VJJ, we probably won't keep this up for very long, so we're enjoying it while we can. I deserve a little fun after all the time and effort I put into our marriage. DJKKJ, VDJ, and Jad spent just as much time and perhaps more effort. DJK, Emma noted. VDJNJ has a girlfriend. DJKJ, VDJNG, your father? Hardly, VGJ, Laura laughed. VDJNG's not one of those. You know how shy he is about women. It took him weeks to work up the courage to ask me out. He's a good husband and father, unlike that guy. VJJ, she gestured to Frank, who was trying to lift the car. VDJNJ, Frank is a good guy. He's funny, attentive, a good father, and a very good provider. DJKJ, VJNJ, he's cheating on his wife. You just said that Dad is a good husband because he's faithful, and Frank, of course, is not. If he thought about his wife and children, would he entertain a married woman in a dirty motel? GAKJ, Emma was indignant. VGNJ was cruel and inappropriate. VJKJ, Laura snapped. VDJ and Jim, not in the mood to argue with you about this. You need to get to school and get ready. Frank and I will be there soon. We will root for you. DJKJ, VJNJ, for some reason I don't feel so warm and fuzzy. DJKJ, Emma countered. VDANJ, keep him away from Dad. Frank doesn't believe it, but Dad can kick his ass. DJKJ, Emma got into her focus and drove off, leaving Laura and Frank alone while he tightened the nuts on the wheel. VJNJ, she's not too happy for us, is she? I think my daughter would feel the same way if she knew. That's why I don't do anything to warn her or my wife. I told you I didn't know she was there the day I brought you home. She should have been at school. DJK, Frank said. VDJ, she understands how it happens. She won't tell. It will destroy our marriage, and she doesn't want that, VJKJ, Laura assured. I sat dazed in the back seat of the company car long after Laura had driven away. Finding out that Laura was cheating on me was painful. Finding out that my daughter knew about it and accepted it completely crushed me. When I finally snapped out of my daze, I realized that Emma's volleyball match was starting. Throughout her high school career, I never missed a single one. This must change. I returned to the parking lot, picked up my truck, and drove home. I had no appetite and even less desire to see my wife and daughter. Sitting at the kitchen table, I drank a few beers and tried to make a plan for my future. I had to appreciate the irony of feeling like I was on top of the world one minute, and then everything turned to crap the next. I thought that Laura might not even want to go to Tampa now that she had a lover. The more I thought about it, the more painful the whole situation became. I was always faithful and worked hard to provide for my family. I didn't deserve what Laura did to me. I always thought that she enjoyed our love. Then I thought that Laura had indeed been unusually amorous since Labor Day. She knew that if she kept me in a good bed, I would be happier than a pig and would never suspect anything. Unfortunately, it worked perfectly. Laura didn't know that my company was buying a plant in Florida. If I had told her that the company was transferring me, she would have assumed it was to Michigan. She would never think of moving there, especially on Thanksgiving. I could move into an apartment in Florida and have time to deal with my family problems without Laura talking about me. She could have sex with Frank every day while I enjoyed the sun and surf of Florida. The more I thought about it, the more I liked it. It wasn't much revenge, but it was a start. I had the weekend and the upcoming week to prepare for the move. I would head to Tampa after Thanksgiving. My loving wife and daughter would think I was going to Michigan, so they wouldn't even ask to come with me. I felt a little better once I had a plan of action. To avoid seeing Laura and Emma anytime soon, I grabbed 4 Dramamine and washed them down with another beer. I knew from experience that it would take a bomb to wake me up before sunrise. I went to the master bedroom, gathered the clothes I would need the next morning, and took them to the spare bedroom. I brought toiletries and a razor into the second bathroom. Then I closed the door to the guest room and climbed into bed. I worried for about 10 minutes before sleep overcame me. VDJ's home, VDJK, Emma noted, seeing my pickup truck parked in its place in the garage. VJNJ, wonder why he didn't come to school to cheer for me. I hope he's not sick. DJKJ, VDJNJ looks like he drank most of the 6-pack, VJKJ. Laura noted as she walked ahead of Emma into the kitchen and saw the empty beer cans on the table. VD this doesn't sound like Jim. I hope he's okay. I'll go check on him. DJKJ Laura was surprised when she didn't find me in bed. She returned to the kitchen to talk to Emma. VJNG's not in bed. He wasn't in the garage and he's not watching TV. Where do you think he is? DJKJ, VDJNJ, there are only a few options. DJKJ, Emma answered. VJNJWE can look in the basement and the laundry room, although I don't think Dad even knows where that is. Then my room and the guest bedroom. DJK. Finally, both women found me sleeping in the guest room. Their attempts to wake me were unsuccessful as I continued to breathe deeply while clutching my pillow. VDJNJ, I think he's drunk, VDJKJJ, Emma suggested. VJNJV never seen him drink too much before, but he really does act like it. I wonder why he missed my match and why he's drinking. Let's ask him in the morning, VDJKJ Laura replied, closing the bedroom door. VDJNJ may not be feeling well. Sometimes he sleeps here to avoid giving me the bug he has. He'll definitely feel like crap in the morning, so don't make him feel even worse about not showing up tonight. Frank thinks you play very well, VJKJ, Laura added. VDJNJ, he thinks you can get a scholarship. DJKJ, VJNJ, why is it so hard for you to understand that I don't care what Frank thinks? DJKJ, Emma asked irritably. VDJNJ, as far as I'm concerned, he's a cheating bastard, and if I never see him again, it'll be too soon. GKJJ, VJNJ, you shouldn't think like that, VJKJ, Laura protested. VJNJ, why can't you just be happy for me? I like him. He makes me feel young and desirable. DJKJ, VZJNJ, it's probably because I can't stop worrying about Dad. I don't think it will be good for him when he finds out about Frank. It will break his heart. DJKJ, VGNJ, that's why he can't find out. I give him as much love as he wants, so he has nothing to lose. Frank just gets more than your dad can handle. DJKJ, VGNJ, keep telling yourself that, Mom. I really doubt Dad would think of it that way, and if you continue in the same spirit, he will find out, but not from me. DJKJ, Emma said decisively. VDJNJ, if you don't tell, he won't suspect anything. I know your father. He trusts me completely, DJKJ, Laura replied as Emma turned and walked into her bedroom. My eyes opened around 5 a.m., and I woke up. I quietly got dressed and left the house. I had just finished breakfast at IHOP when my cell phone rang. VDJN Jim, are you okay? DJKJ Laura asked worriedly. VDJNJ, you didn't come to Emma's match last night, slept in the guest room, and left home early on Saturday morning. This doesn't sound like you. DJKJ, VJNJ, I understand it. I just decided to become more unpredictable and act on the spur of the moment. KKJ, I replied, before hanging up and turning off my phone. I spent the entire morning at the plant, making sure my tools and everything else I owned were loaded into the pickup truck. I would need them in my new place. As time went on, I found myself better able to cope with my situation. I realized that I couldn't change the past, but I could do everything possible to have a decent future. I would work in a new place, meet new people, and enjoy better weather. I was determined to make the situation work for me. I also realized that I needed to keep my move to Florida a secret for the next few days. Thursday was Thanksgiving Day. By then, I would be fully packed and ready to leave early in the morning. Laura and Emma would think I was heading to an even colder climate. I was determined not to say anything that would lead them to believe otherwise. It was already late afternoon when I entered the house. While I was washing my hands in the bathroom, Laura glared at me. "VDJ Ginja, never hang up!" "BDJKJ," Laura shouted. "VJNG, you missed Emma's big match, which they won if that matters to you, to get drunk and pass out in the guest room. Then you sneak out early to avoid me and hang up when I call out of concern. I assume you're expecting me to cook dinner now. You might starve to death as far as I'm concerned." DJKJ. 2 days ago, I would have felt guilty and apologized to Laura. Now I realize that her anger had no meaning to me. What does it matter to me whether she is happy or not? I simply nodded and walked out the door. 10 minutes later, I was ordering ribs at a local sports bar. I was surprised that I was actually able to enjoy life. I drank a few beers and talked football with other customers. It was almost 11 p.m. when I returned home. Laura and Emma were sitting in the living room watching an old film. "VDJNJ, so you decided to honor us with your presence?" "DJK," Laura asked sarcastically. "VDJNJ, don't expect to sleep in my bed until you apologize to Emma and me for acting like a complete fool." "DJKJ, VDJNJ?" DJKJ was all I said, walking through the living room and heading to the bedroom. I quickly gathered my clothes for tomorrow and took them to the guest room, where I immediately undressed and climbed into bed. "VDNG didn't seem too bothered that you were so upset," DJKJ, Emma noted when I was out of sight. "VGNG acts like he likes to sleep in the guest room." DJKJJ, "VGNG, you don't know your father." "VJ," Laura grinned. "VDGNG won't last more than 2 nights before he climbs into bed with me again. He knows when he feels good." DJKJ, "VGNG probably." VGJK, Emma answered doubtfully. "VDGNG, I just hope he doesn't find out how good Frank is." DJK, "VDGNG, please stop mentioning his name." DJKJ, Laura insisted. "VGJNG, I intend to keep this a secret, so I would be very grateful if you would stop mentioning him. I think you like to be the one who raises him if he's not ready for his wife." GKA, Emma stared at her mother, hoping she would be ashamed of talking to her own daughter like that. When Emma first caught her with Frank, Laura thought it might make things easier. There would be one less person to lie to, and Emma was much more observant of her mother's activities than I was. Emma agreed to keep Frank a secret mainly because she didn't want her parents to get a divorce, but she became increasingly disrespectful. Laura found it difficult to be both a good mother and a good lover when her daughter knew she was playing both roles. Then there was the problem with me. What had gotten into me in the last 2 days? She could not remember the slightest disagreement, not the slightest disdain. I was just being bad and she wasn't going to stand for it. I would come to my senses. The sex she shared with me was too good for me to go without for very long. She was sure of it. Sunday morning I got up early again. I ate breakfast at IHOP again and then went for a long walk in the park. It was a cold, peaceful November morning. I enjoyed the fresh breeze on my face mainly because I knew I wouldn't have to experience the cold once I moved to Florida. I returned home shortly before noon with a 6-pack of beer. I turned on the TV, opened a bottle of beer, and started watching all the pre-game stuff while waiting for the Eagles game to start broadcasting. Laura decided to ignore me for the first hour, but then she stomped into the garage and drove away. Laura got home at 6:30, and the second batch finished a little after 7. Noticing that there was no sign of dinner, I turned off the TV and left the house. 20 minutes later, I was back, eating ribs and watching football at a local sports bar. The Eagles had defeated the Giants, and I found myself smiling most of the evening. They played the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day, and I couldn't wait for them to destroy the crying girls. VDJ and your dad's been acting a little strange lately, don't you think? DJ KJ, Emma asked as she and her mother sat in the living room. VJ usually watches the game on Sundays. Did you guys have a fight? DJ KJ, VJ almost didn't talk. VJ KJ, her mother answered. VJ I told him he had to apologize for missing your match and drinking too much before he was allowed back in my bed. Before this, I told him that I would not cook anything for him until his attitude improved. Soon he will miss my cooking and my love. He'll apologize soon. DJ KJ, Emma, and Laura were watching a film when I returned home. By halftime, the football match had become quite one-sided, so I left the bar. I walked past my wife and daughter into the spare bedroom, closing the door. I pulled off my underwear and slid under the sheets. The next few days were tense for Laura. I remained silent, which suggested that I had no intention of apologizing. She had never seen me behave so defiantly towards her, and it made her uneasy. To top it all off, when she met Frank on Tuesday afternoon, she got another flat tire at the motel. She decided the 2 flat tires were no coincidence and would never use the motel again. Luckily, she took the time and effort to get the spare tire fixed on Monday, and Frank changed it for her again. I spent Monday packing the clothes I wanted to take with me. On Tuesday morning, I gathered all my personal belongings and tools and packed them into the truck. I moved the remaining clothes into the closet so it still looked full. I wondered if Laura would notice that I didn't bring cold weather clothes. On both Monday and Tuesday afternoons, I drove to Home Depot and waited for my wife to leave. On Monday, she left at her usual time and went to a nearby grocery store to do some shopping. I followed her until I was sure she was on her way home before I pulled into the parking lot of my now favorite bar for dinner and a Monday night football game. VDJ Jadad won't come home today? DJ KJ? Emma asked, sitting down at the table next to her mother. VDJ Njah, who knows? He's not talking to me and he's still sleeping in the guest room. DJ K, Laura replied. VDJ Njah, I don't know what came over him. DJ K, VDJ Njah, is it possible that he found out what came over you? DJ KJ, Emma asked. VDJ Njah, you told him he couldn't sleep with you and you wouldn't cook for him, so why would he come home? Maybe you should just forgive him and cook him a nice dinner tomorrow night. GK, VJNG can't. I'm meeting Frank tomorrow. You'll have to eat leftovers. I'll be back home a little later. DJK, VDJNJ, so much for giving Frank just what Dad can't handle, huh, Mom? You skip dinner and treat Dad like he's worthless and rush to please Frank. Somehow it seems that Frank has the upper hand in the deal. DJKJD. At least Frank isn't acting like an ass. Laura insisted. Treats me with respect, doesn't get drunk, and doesn't hang up. DJKJJ, VJNJ, maybe because he regularly shares your bed, he's a good guy. VJKJ, Emma asked. VDJNJ, does he take out the trash for us, mow the lawn, paint the house, or pay the mortgage? DJKJ, VJNJ, of course not. What do you mean? DJKJ, Laura asked. VJNJ, Frank doesn't have to do anything except get into bed with you, VJKJ, Emma replied. VDJN, Dad does all this and much more. Frank has sex with you, and you think he's a great guy for it. You don't expect him to help around the house. He doesn't have to accompany you to social events or sit in a hospital waiting room while your leg is set after falling down the stairs. You expect a lot from Dad, and you withhold what you should happily give him, giving it to Frank, and he has done nothing to deserve it except say how sexy you look. DJ KJ, BNJ, your behavior is unacceptable. DJ KJ, Laura snapped. VJNJ, I am your mother, and I hope that you will show me at least some respect. DJKJ, VJNJ. Dad expects you to treat him with respect and be faithful to him, but this definitely doesn't happen. DJKJ, Emma objected heatedly. VDJNJ, respect can be earned, not demanded. DJKJ. That evening, Emma stopped me as I walked through the living room toward the stairs. VJNJ, your district championship game is tomorrow at State, Jim. We're playing at 4 o'clock. Do you think you can do it? DJKJJ, VDJ and Jill, check my schedule and see what I can do. JKJA, I replied evasively before continuing up the stairs. VJJNJE, think he's angry with me too, JJK Emma complained. VDNJ, I haven't done anything to make him angry, but he doesn't seem at all interested in what I have to say. DJKJ, VDJ and Jim telling you that he's in a strange mood, DJKJ, Laura reassured her. VDJ and JH, he's unhappy about something, and he doesn't have the communication skills to tell us. He'll be at the game tomorrow. Look, his truck is in the garage, VDJ Emma sobbed the next evening. VDJ and he could come to my match, he just didn't want to. Why is he angry with me? JKJ, VJ and J, that's a very reasonable question, VJKJ. Laura agreed sadly, listening to her daughter cry. VJ, let's find out what's happening right now. GAKJ. Once again, they found an empty six-pack on the kitchen counter, and I was nowhere to be seen. VDJ, it's only 8 o'clock now. He can't be in bed already, VJKJ, Laura said worriedly. Once again, they failed to awaken me from my deep sleep in the guest room. Defeated, both women returned to the living room. VDJNG, tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day. Will you let Daddy eat with us? DJKJ VJNW, well, of course, his parents will come, as will mine. This is his home. I will never try to hold him back, and he knows it. Hopefully, he'll be on better behavior by then. I invited the group to come in around 4. DJKJ, VDJNJ, who did you invite, Mom? Please tell me it's not Frank. DJKJ, VJNJ, Frank, and his wife will arrive soon. I think he and Jim will get along great. They both love football and hunting. They have a lot in common. VDJKJ, Laura reasoned. VCDJANJO, the problem is that one of the things they have in common is you, VDJKA, Emma noted. VDJJNJ husbands usually don't like to share this with their hunting buddies or football fans. You are showing classic signs of guilt and subconsciously want to get caught. This is a really bad idea. DAKJ, VDJNJ, I just think they'll get along great. Jim needs more friends. Frank will do him good. DJKJ, VDJ, and you've really lost your mind. There is no world where those two in the same room could be any good, VJKJ, Emma insisted. VDJ, well, see, VDJKJ, Laura replied. VDJNJ, I think a surprise awaits you. DJKJ, I got up early on Thanksgiving morning. I drove to a small diner that was open until noon and had a quiet breakfast. I returned to the house at 9 a.m. My senses were assaulted by the smells of turkey, potatoes, gravy, pie, and a variety of other foods being cooked. VDJNJW will sit down at the table at noon, VDJKJ, said Laura. VD and your parents will be here shortly before that. Would you like something to drink? DJKJ? I shook my head, walked into the living room, sat down, and turned on the TV. I knew Laura was trying to offer an olive branch, but I was no longer interested in what she had to say. I greeted her parents warmly when they arrived. They were kind people and always treated me well. A few minutes later, my parents arrived. VJJNJI have an announcement to make. VJJKJJ, I announced as the family passed food around the table. VJJNJI am being transferred to another plant of the company. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. The task will last at least until spring and maybe longer. DJKJ. Laura was stunned. Why didn't he mention this earlier? She could never leave so quickly, and if so, would she agree to move to Michigan? Perhaps that was why I had been acting so strangely for the past week. She knew she would never agree to quit her job to freeze her ass off. VDJNJ, this is terribly unexpected, VJKJ, Laura's mother remarked. VJNJ, Laura never mentioned this. Will she come with you, or will you wait to see how serious it is? DJKJ, Jinjil, go alone. VJKJ, I answered. VJNJ, it would be unfair to ask Emma to change schools and Laura to quit her job. I'll just have to suffer alone for a few months. GAKJA. Both sets of grandparents began discussing the weather and how cold it would be while Laura and Emma exchanged glances. Both were thinking the same thing. I was upset about leaving my family and heading out into the icy wasteland. No wonder I was in a bad mood. After dinner, my father and Laura's father sat in front of the television to watch the second half of the Eagles game. The Cowboys had a 17-point lead at the half, and things only got worse from there. All three were disgusted by the lack of effort from their favorite team. They were watching the pregame show of the second football game when the doorbell rang. I didn't pay much attention until Laura cleared her throat in the hallway. VJJNJK everyone. I'd like to introduce you to a couple of friends. This is Nancy and her husband Frank, DJK. She then named each person in the room. I was the last one. When Frank approached me, I was already on my feet. Frank grinned like a Cheshire cat. He was wearing a Dallas Cowboy sweater with VDJNJ Prescott DJKJ in big letters on the back. His smile grew even wider as he walked up to me and extended his hand. VJJN, hello, Jimmy, I've heard a lot about you. DJKJ. I masterfully kept everything to myself, but this was too much. Frank showed as much disrespect as he could, especially since he was at my house. He laughed at me at my favorite football team, but mostly at my inability to keep my wife. I suddenly reached my limit. Without any warning, I kicked Frank between the legs hard enough to knock him off his feet. As he leaned down to grab his throbbing groin, my knee met Frank's face with a sickening sound. Frank fell to the floor in the classic fetal position, blood gushing from his broken nose. For several seconds, no one moved. Then Nancy screamed and fell next to her husband. Laura rushed to the bathroom and vomited into the toilet while Emma collected ice in a washcloth. She handed it to Nancy, who gently pressed it to Frank's face. I, like everyone else, was stunned by my actions. Not knowing what else to do and feeling the disapproval of the others, I grabbed my coat and walked out the door. I didn't stop for the night until I got off Highway 75 and drove for a while on Highway 301 in Virginia. I rented a room in Hillsville and fell asleep within minutes. When I woke up in the morning, I turned on the phone again. The mailbox was full, which didn't surprise me. I listened to several messages before deciding to delete them all. My mother, Laura, and Emma all called, demanding to know where I was and what I thought I was doing. I decided to stick to my schedule and drove the car south on Highway 301. As I drove, I kept replaying the events of the previous day in my head. That idiot Frank asked for it, but what will be the consequences? Will the highway patrol stop me and arrest me? Will I lose my job before I even get to Tampa? Would Laura divorce me now? I realized that I had to listen to my messages to understand the situation. I decided to leave the phone on, but not answer calls. I would check the messages after the caller gave up. Less than half an hour had passed when my cell phone rang. I checked the ID and saw that it was Laura. I waited a couple of minutes and checked my messages. VD and Jim, please call me. I know the transfer has upset you greatly, but you need to pull yourself together. Frank will be fine, but he needs surgery on his nose. He won't press charges. Please call me. DJKGJ. I rode all morning and all afternoon. I arrived at the apartment at 5 o'clock in the evening. As promised, there was a safe attached to the outside faucet. I was given the code by email a few days ago. I was able to open the box, remove the front door key, and enter. It was already well after 7 when I unpacked my clothes and unloaded my personal belongings. I parked the truck in the garage, made my bed, and went to bed. Since it was Friday evening, I had 2 days off before going to work. During the move, I noticed a few minor problems with the apartment, so I decided Saturday would be a good time to get the apartment in better condition. I began to worry that Laura would call me at work and find out about the Tampa plant and then decide that she should join me. This was the last thing I wanted, so I decided to call her on Saturday morning. VDNJ, hello, Laura. It's Jim. DJKJ, VJDNJ, where the hell are you? We called you all night. Your phone was turned off. What is wrong with you? Frank has a broken nose and a minor concussion, all because he's rooting for another football team. Are you crazy? DJTGA. I pressed the end button, turned off my phone, and began making a list of things I would need at the local store. An hour later, I returned to the apartment with a lock for the front door, an air conditioning filter, various cleaning supplies, and a 30-pack of beer. At noon, I called Emma on her cell phone. VJ&J, Dad, I'm glad you called. All hell broke loose here after you decorated Frank. The ambulance arrived and dragged his sorry ass to the hospital. Both sets of grandparents were worried that you were going crazy. Mom was afraid that they would sue us. I had to wipe the blood off the floor while Mom took Nancy to the hospital. I think she apologized to her 100 times. Besides that, did anything interesting happen? DJ KJ asked Emma. VDJN, no, it was pretty quiet. Oh, there's one more thing, VDJKJ, Emma added. VGN's mom is furious that you hung up on me again. She was just warming up when you passed out. DJKJ, VDJNJ, yes, I could tell. VDJKJ, I replied. VDJJNJ, that's why I called you this time. I got a new job and will report to work on Monday morning. In case someone asks where I am, for example, the police. DJKJ, VGNJ, don't worry about it, VJKJ. Emma grinned. VJNJ Frank is not pressing any charges, although I think his wife wanted him to. The cops won't look for you. DJKJ, VJNJ, so. Why such secrecy about your translation? So that's why you've been acting differently the last week or so. DJKJ, Emma asked. VDANJ, the day when I was informed about the transfer was very significant for me. I started thinking about where I was in my life and where I needed to be. One of the conclusions is that no one will respect me if I don't respect myself. BJKJ, I answered thoughtfully. VDJNJ, lost my way a little over the years, but I'm getting back on track. DJKJ, VJNJara, you okay, Dad? Is everything okay with your health? Do you have any problems we should know about? GJKJ, Emma asked worriedly. VJNJ, not really. You and your mother know about my problems. I'm sure of it. VDKJJ, I answered sadly. VDJN, just tell your mother that I'm settled and don't worry about me if that's at all possible. DJK, VJNJ, okay, Dad? I will call you from time to time. Will you take my calls? DJKJ, Emma asked. I found it extremely difficult to contain my anger at my daughter. I loved her unconditionally, but her disrespect for me was hard to accept. I knew I didn't want to cut her out of my life completely. I had already mellowed a little from my initial anger the day I found out that my wife and daughter had teamed up to deceive me in the worst possible way. VDJNG, if you don't call while I'm working, I'll answer your calls, VJKJ, I answered after a moment of hesitation. VJKJ, what about Mom? Can she call you? DJKJ, Emma insisted. VDDDNG, will you answer her calls? DAKVDJNG, if she wants to call me and tell me what an ass I am, she should save herself the trouble, VJKJ, I immediately objected. VDJNG, if there is a problem with the house or family that I need to know about, she should call. Isn't that fair? That's how it should be, isn't it? GKJ, VJNG, let her know. Good luck with your new job and stay warm. Is it really cold there now? DJKJ, VDJNG, actually, it's better than I dared hope. DJKJ, I replied. VJ Jill do just fine here, so don't worry about the weather. Goodbye, Em. DJKJ, as soon as Emma placed the phone in her lap, her mother began asking questions. VDJNG, what did he say? Did he apologize? Is he afraid to return home? What did he say about me? DJKJ, VDDJNG doesn't seem to be afraid of anything. He said that no one would respect him if he didn't respect himself. That's why he put Frank down and why he keeps hanging up. If you ever want to talk to him, it looks like you'll have to be more respectful and considerate, VDJKJ, Emma concluded. VDJNJ, respectfully, he was the one who beat up a guest in our house just because he was wearing the wrong t-shirt. He's the one who always hangs up. I'll tell him everything I think the next time I talk to him, VDJKJ, Laura promised. VDJNJ, that's exactly what he was talking about. He won't listen to this. Hell, just hang up. Frank is the only one who will get anything from you unless you find another boyfriend or two. DJKJ, VDJNJ, why do you persist in making such rude, derogatory remarks? DJKJ, Laura asked. VDJNJ, mostly because you're being rude, demeaning, and extremely disrespectful. DJKJ, Emma retorted. VDJNJ, Frank grinned at Dad like crazy. I know it wasn't just the Cowboys beating the Eagles. He laughed at Dad because he had sex with his wife. This is enough to make any normal person go crazy. DJKJJVDJNJ, but Jim doesn't know anything about Frank and me, so he couldn't sense that Frank was trying to hint at it. DJKJ, Laura objected. JNJ, well, he knew for sure that Frank was acting like a complete ass, and he put him in his place. When you come to a person's house, you should not mock or disrespect him. Any man would be angry even if he didn't know that his wife was this guy's mistress. DJ KJ vis-a-vis Jim, not going to listen to that kind of talk anymore. JKJ, Laura screamed. VJNJ, you live under my roof and you will give me the respect I deserve, whether you think I deserve it or not. JKJ. I was relaxing by the pool on Wednesday evening when my phone rang. I glanced at it and saw it was Laura and let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, I checked the message. Jim, I know you're checking my calls. Please call me back. We need to decide something about the house. Who will shovel the driveway when it snows? Is it worth signing a contract for the supply of fuel oil? Which company do we use? Please call me DJ KJ. I listened carefully to the message. I didn't notice any anger, so I decided to call Laura back. She had several important questions, and I didn't want her and Emma to have any safety or health problems. VDJNJ, thank you for calling, Jim. VDJKJ. Laura replied calmly. VJ and Jim worried about the things you usually do in the house now that the snow season has arrived. Could you tell me what I need to do? JKJ, VJ and Jill, sit down, make a detailed list, and send it to you by email. VJKJ, I promised. VJNJ, I should have thought about it. Are you coming home for Christmas, aren't you? DJKJ, Laura asked. VJNJ, Mom and Dad invited us to their place for Christmas dinner. Your parents want to see us on Christmas Eve? They always ask if I talk to you. It's quite awkward when I tell them no. They say you don't answer their calls either. DKJ, VJNJ, I don't know what my schedule will be. I'll be home if I can. You can tell them that. You can also explain that I will start answering their calls when they start talking to me in a polite manner. Every message I receive, even from my own mother, is threatening and offensive. I don't need this, DJKK, I insisted. VDJNJK, I'll tell them, although I doubt it will do much good. They weren't too happy about the way you treated Frank or the way you disappeared afterward, DJKJ, Laura answered cautiously. VDDJNJ, so there's no reason for me to come for Christmas, is there? I will not allow your parents or even my parents to treat me like public enemy number one. If they want me there because they enjoy my company, that's one thing. If they want me to show up so they can tell me how bad I am, I'm not interested, VDJK, I said. VDJN, you can still come home, VDJKJ, Laura sobbed. VJN, Gemily and I will be glad to see you and won't make stupid comments if we can help it. Don't you miss making love to me, DJJ? Here it is. I had no desire to have sex with Laura. Hearing her and Frank together put an end to those feelings pretty well. I thought about how best to respond. I might have been making things up a bit since I haven't slept with Laura since I found out about Frank. VDJNJ always liked making love. Every time we made love, it was something special for me, VDJKJ, I replied, although I forgot to mention that it was only because I didn't know that I was receiving Frank's sloppy seconds. VDJNJ, me too, DKJ, Laura sobbed again. VDJNJ, you are the best lover in the world, and I really miss you in my bed. Please come home for Christmas. DJKJ, DJNJ, let's see if you can spend Christmas week with us. I have to take care of this. They usually don't give people that week off on the spur of the moment because so many people ask for it when they fit it into their vacation schedule. I'll let you know, VJKK, I promised. VDANJI will email a list of all the people you need to contact to prepare for the snow season. DKJJ. Laura hung up with a smile. VDNJI, is he the best lover in the world? JKJ, Emma repeated. Vijayangit would be better for Frank not to hear this. He seems to think he's at the top of your list, his wife's list, and who knows who else's list. DJKK, VJNJI asked you to show some restraint when talking about Frank. Your father is actually better than Frank, so it wasn't a lie. Frank is more entertaining, but not better. DJKJJ, VJJN, Jim, sure Dad will cling to this little piece of good news when you explain it to him that way. He will be as proud as a peacock. His wife says he is better than her other lovers. This is the kind of recommendation a husband can boast of. DJJ, Emma noted when her mother left the room in tears. I enjoyed my new life. I managed to spend time in the pool every day. Every day I became more and more tanned and relaxed. I easily understood the plant's equipment and was confident that I would be able to ensure smooth operation. The only thing that surprised me was the number of widows, divorcees, and unmarried women who inhabited my condominium. Everyone, without exception, seemed to enjoy my company. Once it became known that I could handle tools, I was constantly in demand. This didn't bother me because the ladies always baked something for me to take home or gave me a home-cooked meal or left a bottle of wine or a six-pack of beer at my door. It was a few days before Christmas, and Laura was pressuring me to commit to going home for the holidays. I had just finished fixing Mrs. Smith's closet door when I turned around and saw her standing naked by the bed. "VJJNJI would like to repay you for your kindness, Jim. DJKJ. The middle-aged widow smiled. "VDJNJI don't have a lot of extra money, but I have a lot of pent-up desires and needs. Will you make love to me?" "JKJJ, I was torn. I had never cheated on my wife. In fact, I only had sex with one woman in my life. Susan Struther had large, perky breasts and gorgeous legs that went up. She was a very desirable woman, and not only for her age. VJ and Susan, I need to work out some things in my marriage. I'll have a better idea of where it'll be after Christmas. I have never cheated on my wife, but she may no longer be my wife. In any case, I will either ask you if the proposal is still valid after the holiday, or I will make peace with my wife. I must admit that at the moment the chances of reconciliation are slim. DJKJ VDJNJI, understand. DJKJ. The widow nodded, throwing her robe over her shoulders. "VDJ, that stupid bitch didn't appreciate what a gem she had and cheated on you, didn't she? I'll be here, and the offer will remain valid after the holidays. You know, I'm not the only lady here whose needs aren't being met, right? All the girls like you. You are always a gentleman, always kind and helpful, and we all know we can trust you. If you decide that the marriage is over, you will find many ladies ready to console you," VJKJ, Susan Struthers predicted. I called Laura and said I would try to be home on Christmas Eve. I was surprised at how happy she seemed. I knew I missed Laura and Emma, and I owed it to them as well as to myself to resolve the matter one way or another. With this in mind, I set off north 3 days before Christmas. On the first day, I drove halfway, so on the second day, I had time to go shopping, and I would still get home in the evening before Christmas Eve. I was even willing to visit my parents for Christmas Eve dinner. If they were too unhappy, I would simply leave. It was 9 o'clock when I pulled out onto my street and saw many cars parked in my driveway. I recognized several of them. It turned out that Laura was throwing her usual informal holiday party for her friends at Home Depot. As I approached the front door, I was able to look into the kitchen. There, big as life, was fucking Frank. Not wanting to have anything to do with him and spoil the holiday mood, I walked around the back of the house and opened the door leading to the basement. I could hang out there until the party was over and Frank left. I was dozing on an old sofa that I had stolen several years ago. I woke up almost 2 hours after I fell asleep. I listened but did not hear the noise coming from above. I returned to the yard and looked around. There was only one strange machine left. I headed back to the front door, wondering who it belonged to. I looked into the kitchen again, but this time Laura was with Frank. He squeezed her left breast while kissing her. I immediately felt my old rage return. I stopped myself from rushing in and attacking Frank. I got away with it once, but I'm unlikely to do it again. I decided to sneak upstairs and wait to catch the two lovers in the act. Then I would take a few pictures with my phone and tell her to go to hell and head back to Florida. It seemed like a good plan, but it didn't work out. I easily entered the house and climbed the stairs unnoticed. I slipped into the guest room and waited, turning off the lights and opening the door slightly. About 20 minutes later, Laura walked up the stairs and entered the master bedroom. I heard the shower turn on and it freaked me out. The bitch was going to take a shower and clean herself up for her lover. Frank was still walking downstairs when it dawned on me. I walked out into the hallway and turned off the bedside lamp before returning to the guest room. When Frank was about a third up, I reached out and turned off the light in the hallway. I knew from experience that the second floor would be very dark, but in the dim light from the street, I could make out the silhouette of anyone coming up the stairs. Frank muttered something as the lights went out, but continued up the stairs. I walked out of the bedroom and stood at the top of the stairs, watching Frank approach. When Frank had only 3 steps left to take, I kicked him with my right foot. I felt my heel touch Frank's jaw. The man flew back so quickly that I was startled. In the dim light, I could see Frank sliding down the stairs like a bobsledder in a straight line. He hit the bottom step of the stairs and by inertia ended up in the center of the living room. Once there, he remained completely motionless. I could hear the water running in the shower and knew that Laura had not heard the sounds the man made as he tumbled down the stairs. As the rage I felt began to dissipate, I thought again. If Frank died, I would be in deep shit. I quickly went down the stairs, stepped over Frank's prone body, and left the house. 2 hours later, I was already 100 miles away and decided to add many more miles before stopping. It was almost dawn when I finally pulled into a cheap motel and paid cash for my room. I slept for 4 hours and headed south again. Driving the car, I thought about the situation. I had attacked a man. This could be a very serious situation depending on whether Frank survived or not. How did it come to this? I realized that I needed to stay away from Frank and Laura, or I would end up in prison for murder. They just weren't worth it. I also admitted to myself that I felt lonely and lost without Laura. Until recently, she and Emma had been the center of my universe. They betrayed me, and I needed to move on. At noon, my cell phone rang. It was my parents' number, so I let it go to voicemail. I didn't have the energy to explain to my mother why I wouldn't come to dinner on Christmas Eve, or why I attacked Frank again. Half an hour later, I gathered my courage and listened to the message. "Jim, this is your father. Call us when you receive this. All hell is broken loose at your house. Laura and Emma are fine, but things have happened that you need to know about." "Hello, Father. I just received your message." "What happened?" I asked when my father picked up the phone. "There's no easy way to tell you this, son. That damn Frank was at your house again last night. It was already late. He fell down the stairs and was seriously hurt. He suffered a broken jaw, a broken arm, several broken ribs, and another concussion. His wife was furious when she found out that he was there. She got the impression that he was working late at Home Depot on year-end inventory. She got to your house before the paramedics loaded him into the ambulance. She probably slapped Laura and called her every name in the book. She even tried to throw her husband off the gurney but was stopped by the police. To say she was upset would be an understatement. This all takes us back to Thanksgiving when you threw that idiot out. We were upset about the apparent brutal attack on a guy simply because he was wearing a cowboy shirt. Now that we have a little clearer picture of what's going on, your mother and I want to apologize to you. We should have known you wouldn't do something like that without a good reason. We are proud of you, son. You showed more restraint than I did." "Thank you, Dad." "How's Emma? Was she at home all this time?" I asked. "This is another problem. She and I had a pretty serious conversation this morning. Yesterday she spent the night with a friend, but today she admitted that she knew Laura was spreading her legs for this idiot. In her defense, Emma said she wanted the family to stay together until she finished school. After that, she was going to tell you. Needless to say, we were very disappointed, and I can't imagine how you feel. Your mother told her that she betrayed you just like Laura. There were a lot of tears, but at the end we all hugged." "Thank you for your support and for helping Emma figure it out," I replied. "Son, where are you really? I know you said you were transferred, but now that I know what the problems were, I wonder if you just moved to a motel or got a room here in town. No matter how angry you are, moving to Michigan in December is pretty drastic." The company bought a smaller plant in Tampa. I was promoted and transferred here. They gave me a big raise in a small apartment. "I'm the maintenance supervisor," I boasted to my father. "In Florida, not a damn thing. This is cool. Would you mind if your mom and I visit you in February? By then we'll have had enough of winter." "Anytime, Dad, you're welcome. Please don't tell Laura where I am. I don't want to explain anything to her now." "I hear you, Jim. It's unlikely that we will talk to her about anything. I would advise you to talk to Emma. She's feeling pretty depressed about all this chaos. She thinks you must have known Laura was cheating because you were so cold to both of them." Did you know Emma knew about this? I need to go, Dad. We'll discuss all this later when the dust settles. Thanks for your understanding and help, Dad. I love you both, I said, ending the conversation. I returned to my apartment at dusk on Christmas Eve. It was my first Christmas alone and I felt depressed. I turned on the TV, opened a beer, and sat on the couch to vegetate. I was still thinking when the doorbell rang. I saw that your light was on and I came to wish you a Merry Christmas, greeted Susan Struthers. It's not good to be alone at Christmas for both of us. The fact that you came back tells me that you have not made peace with your wife. It's a reasonable assumption, I agreed. Her boyfriend was going to sleep in my bed. I hate crowds, unless, of course, it's a couple of women. What about one woman? I may make you move a little, but I don't think you'll mind, Susan added pointedly. I considered her offer for a moment before accepting. I would really like that. I must warn you that I haven't had sex for a long time, and I must not be very good at it. Otherwise, my wife wouldn't go looking for happiness on the side. I really doubt you were the problem. When a man is as gracious, selfless, and kind as you are in everyday life, you can bet he'll be great in the bedroom, Susan replied. Do you have condoms? No, I haven't used them in 20 years, I replied, realizing that I still had a lot to learn about dating. Your partners will appreciate that you have them. It's a healthy, mindful thing. This is true, Susan said. So it was, and I had a great Christmas Eve. My anger towards Laura and Emma began to fade as I replaced it with happy memories that improved my self-esteem. I still felt the pain as well as the void their actions had created in my life, but I had finally gotten over it. People did bad things, even good people, and even people I loved. Susan helped make sure that life was truly worth living. She snuck out of my apartment while it was still dark on Christmas morning to avoid gossip at the condominium, but agreed to meet at the heated pool later on Christmas Day. That evening, I enjoyed a home-cooked meal and another round of lovemaking with Susan. I returned to my room at 9 o'clock in the evening again to avoid gossip. There was no doubt that several eyes had seen me enter and leave Susan's apartment. My phone rang a few minutes after I got home. Dad, you didn't come home for Christmas, but I don't blame you. Mom is a mess, and I feel like crap too. I'm so sorry for what we did to you. I knew it was wrong, but I was selfish. I wanted you to stay together until I finished school. It's all water under the bridge, I answered. I won't lie. You both caused me a lot of pain. I had no idea that your mother was so unhappy with me. It never occurred to me that you would agree and even help her hide this from me. I'm trying to get through this, but it's not easy. This is the strangest thing. Mom is not unhappy with you. She told me that you are a good husband, father, and lover. She just wanted to try something different, and now she fucking regrets the idea. Did you know about Frank and Mom on Thanksgiving when Mom invited him over? Yes, I should have apologized for losing control, but the damn guy rubbed his nose in my face. I just snapped at the level of disrespect he and your mother showed me. I understand everything clearly. I was glad you decorated him. I saw his stupid grin and realized that he was gloating. Mom insisted it was because of the cowboy shirt, but it had never bothered you before. Did you miss my last 2 matches because you were upset with me? Yes. I'm really sorry, but when Frank said he'd be cheering for you, I knew I couldn't go. Otherwise, I'd be in jail right now, I said. Did you hear, Frank? Were you there when I brought the spare tire? You cut the valve stem, didn't you? You wanted to know if your mom would call you for help to get her to confess. Instead, I found myself in the thick of things. I'm so sorry, Dad. I really was selfish and stupid, and now I'm paying for it. Don't blame yourself for this. I should have just met your mother on the spot, but I discovered that I have anger issues. I would probably send them both to the hospital. I doubt it, Dad, Emma answered. You're just not the type to hurt a woman, especially your wife. Frank is a completely different story. Grandpa told you that Frank fell down our stairs last night. He is pretty damaged, but is expected to make a full recovery, although it will take some time. Guess what I found in the basement? It was the new laptop you must have left me for Thanksgiving. This was planned ahead. Thank you very much. I'll use it a lot, especially when I go to college next year, Emma promised. I'm glad you liked it, I replied, realizing that I had forgotten about the gift that I had put on the sofa in the basement. Did you also find one for your mother? She cried like a child when she saw the pearls. It was a nice gift, and it really made her feel even worse about the way she treated you. Funny thing is, I didn't see these gifts until a few days before Christmas, when I was in the basement looking for new Christmas tree lights. Thank you for being such a good father for so many years. I'm just beginning to appreciate you as I should, Emma admitted with a slight sob. Don't be upset. When I was your age, I thought my parents were dumber than a box of rocks. They really learned a lot over the next few years, I chuckled. I just want you to be happy and have a wonderful life. Do not worry about me. It'll be okay. I love you, Dad. Maybe I'll even find a way to get to Michigan to visit you this winter, Emma suggested. I didn't tell the whole truth about my transfer. The company bought a small plant in Tampa. This is where I live now. If you want to visit me, I have a spare bedroom. There's a pool right outside my door, and the ocean is a couple of blocks away. Are you kidding me? If my mother and I knew about this, we would go with you. Oh, I guess you didn't really want us, did you? We didn't deserve to be with you after all the pain we caused. I don't blame you for not telling us. We lied to you every day, so you had the right not to tell the whole truth at least once. This will really push Mom over the edge. You don't have to tell her anything, although it's no longer a secret. I'll email her my address so we can negotiate the divorce by mail, and I won't have to go back there, I reasoned. I was afraid to ask about this. Are you going to divorce your mom? I understand everything and don't blame you at all. I warned her when she dated that clown, but she believed you'd never know. I just wish things had turned out differently. Good night, Dad. I'll probably try to come visit. Oh, cool. Good night and Merry Christmas, I said. Emma had just put her phone back in her pocket when her mother came into the room. Did I understand correctly that your father is not actually in Michigan? Then where is he? And why did he lie to us? He's at his company's newly acquired plant in Tampa, Emma answered. He didn't lie to us. He said that he was being transferred to another plant, and so it was. We didn't know they had one in Tampa, so we assumed it was in Michigan. He didn't tell us because he was there when you called me to bring the spare tire to the motel. He heard the entire conversation and knew who you were in the cheap room with. He didn't feel obligated to take us into account. Why didn't he say anything then? Was he afraid of Frank? Laura asked. Afraid of Frank? What the hell is wrong with you? Emma asked. He wiped the floor with Frank's ass. Frank is no match for his father, either in a fight or in raising a family. You're always trying to find flaws or weaknesses in him in order to justify the unforgivable. I would strongly advise you not to treat your next husband the same way you treat your father. Next husband? What did your father tell you? Asked the alarmed Laura. It's hard to believe, but he's had enough of your deception and lies. He feels that divorce is the next step. I told you he'd do it when he found out. I don't want a divorce. I don't like Frank. I don't even like him. None of this would have happened if he hadn't fallen down the stairs, Laura whined. Didn't you listen? You were doomed the day I delivered your spare tire to the motel. Dad was there, saw and heard everything. He knows how much we disrespected him. He knows you lied. He knows you cheated, and he knew it when he hit Frank on Thanksgiving. By that time, you were already a divorced walking woman. Frank is not to blame for anything. He is yours. He made the porridge himself. Maybe now that his wife is divorcing him, you two can be together, Emma suggested. I don't need this donkey. I want Jim to come back, Laura sobbed. The next day was even worse for Laura. Emma called her father to explain the new problem. Mom received a letter from the state health department. Her boyfriend took a blood test while he was in the hospital, and he has a sexually transmitted disease. Mom must get tested and also tell them about everyone she's had sex with. You're on her list, although I'm not sure how far down you are. You'll receive a letter very soon. Wow, I probably should have seen this coming. I'll make an appointment today. Thank you for letting me know right away. I appreciate the care and attention. This is the kind of treatment a man should expect from his daughter. I got lost for a while, but now I'm back on the right track. Take care of yourself, Dad. I arranged for an immediate examination. I had to give Susan credit for being smart enough to prevent the spread of any STD Laura might have passed on to me. On my way home from work, I bought a bunch of different types of condoms. When I got home, I took out a large bowl and almost filled it with condoms. I placed the bowl on the bedside table. I promised myself that I would never cause any sweet lady to contract a disgusting disease that was so easily preventable. As time went by, I received the results of my blood test and was pleased to learn that I was not sick. My free time was filled with requests from the condominium women to do housework. I became more and more in demand. One evening, when I mentioned this to Susan, she admitted that she had mentioned to two girls that I was very capable in bed. They were sworn to secrecy, but she admitted they may have let it slip in the company of women, most of whom were unmarried for whatever reason. The ladies liked me. I found myself regularly stopping by the drugstore to refill my condom bowl. Without exception, all the ladies who entered my bedroom rummaged through the basin looking at the condoms before choosing one or two. They all seemed pleased that I was so concerned about my and their health. It just added to my legend. One afternoon, shortly before Easter, I opened the door and saw Emma with a small suitcase. Before I could speak, she threw herself into my arms and hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry, Dad. Please forgive me and let me stay with you for a few days. But I will leave if you want." "I'm just surprised to see you at my door. Come on, I'll show you the room," I suggested. "You're always welcome here. You look quite grown up." "I told you I finally filled in the right spots," Emma laughed, turning around so I could admire her from all angles. "I wear the same bra size as Mom, although now it probably fits me better. Mom is getting pretty thin. I hitched a ride with the Shears. They're going to Orlando, but they were kind enough to drop me off here," Emma said. "I guess I knew that you would let me stay. It's spring break, and I'll only be here for 4 days before they take me back into the snow and cold. This place is really good. I bet you like living here." "It's not as big as our house, but it has everything I need, including a heated pool right outside the door," I agreed, watching Emma look around the apartment. "Wow, looks like you're getting everything you need," Emma laughed when she found a bowl of condoms in my bedroom. "Well done, Dad. You deserve a little fun after everything that's happened. I will not bother you. I'll just sit by the pool and soak up the sun while you're at work. What is that orange ball in the sky? I seem to remember seeing it at some point, like the 4th of July 2 years ago. Tomorrow evening, when I return from work, we will go to dinner. There are a lot of great places to eat here, especially if you like beer and ribs or steak or seafood," I continued. "I'll take you to one of the places where the guys from work hang out so they can see how beautiful my daughter is." The next evening, Emma and I sat at the rib joint and had a good time. "Why did you forgive me, Dad? I don't know if I would do this if I were you. It was terrible of me to help your mom cheat on you. I hate myself for doing this, and I am truly sorry." "I'll give a short answer," I replied. "I'm much happier with you than when you weren't there. In this regard, I am selfish. It makes me happier and is now one of my life goals." "I'm very glad that you think so. I hope you'll always be glad that I'm around," Emma said sincerely. "We were always close, and I hated myself when I realized that I drove you away. Is there a chance that you will ever forgive your mother? She's not doing well without you. She has lost weight and hardly goes anywhere. When rumors started that Frank had a sexually transmitted disease and his sexual partners needed testing, half the people who worked at the store were scared to death. It appears that Frank contracted a sexually transmitted disease from the new cashier who was recently hired. They infected quite a lot of people. Mom was the only manager on this list, and it was very awkward for her," Emma recalled. "Several times she came home in tears. To her credit, she stuck it out and finally came to terms with the fact that she really screwed up when she cheated on you." "Emma, your mother and I agreed we were partners. Partners must be honest with each other. They must trust each other. I don't trust her anymore," I admitted. "I thought so, especially after I met your harem at the pool today. It was awkward having so many women asking me about you. From the way they talked about you, I could tell that at least 4 of them were sleeping with you. My father is a condominium owner, Emma grinned. Seriously, they all think you're a sensitive, honest, good-looking guy who's pretty good in bed. I don't know about all this. I have a couple of friends who drop by from time to time. I don't think they think I'm anything special. It's more like I'm free, I suggested modestly. Mom really screwed up, Emma said. Can I come as soon as I finish school and find a job here for the summer? I'm thinking about going to college here if it's nearby. Can I live with you? If it's not close enough to commute to work, can I spend weekends and holidays with you? My mom and I don't get along very well. We're just not close anymore. Her deception bothered me far more than I realized at the time. I readily agreed to Emma's request. I was much happier when I spent time with my only child. She was growing into a woman, and it gave me great pleasure to watch her grow up. I talked to her several times a week when she returned from spring break. She insisted that I not come to her graduation, but promised that she would go to Florida the next day. On Sunday afternoon, I opened the door to greet Emma when I came face to face with Laura. I couldn't think or move for what seemed like minutes, but I knew it could only be 10 or 15 seconds. I managed to come to my senses a little. "Come in, Laura. Can I offer you a drink?" I asked automatically, trying to understand why she was at my door. "Thank you, Jim. That would be great," Laura replied, following me into the kitchen. I poured us both some iced tea and sat down as Laura sat down on the other side of the table. "I was going to pick up Emma. She told me that she will live here with you. I moved my job to Tampa. We need to decide what we are going to do with the house. You've never filed for divorce and we haven't spoken, so I don't know what you'd like to do," Laura concluded. "Why are you moving here?" I was surprised. "What do you think will happen?" "I think I'll stop freezing every winter," Laura joked. "Emma goes to college here in Florida, so I have nothing to do there except be fodder for gossip. I don't know what Emma told you, but your parents don't talk to me, and my parents aren't much better." "I've disappointed a lot of people, including myself, but mostly you. I can't ask you for forgiveness because my actions were unforgivable," Laura admitted. "I'm looking for a new start where people won't joke about me having an STD and stuff like that. By the way, I was very glad that I didn't pass this on to you. I think you had stopped having sex with me by the time Frank showered me with that gift. I am responsible for what happened to us. I tried to blame you. Then Frank, the girl who gave him the disease, even the guy who made the ladder Frank fell down. I finally realized that it was all on me. I ruined my life and tried to ruin yours too. If you hadn't found out, you would have enjoyed Frank's little gift with me. I regret what I did. I wonder how I thought it seemed normal at the time, like I was entitled to a little fling. I even dragged Emma into this, and I'll never forgive myself for that. I almost ruined her relationship with her father because I was a selfish bitch. She warned me over and over that Frank was an ass and that this would end badly, but I didn't listen," Laura admitted. "I'm so glad you let her back into your life. Your love and approval mean a lot to her. This meant a lot to me before I lost my way. Now that I don't have it, I would give anything to have it back. I think we need to make a list of things to sell and split the money." "I thought you already filed for divorce. Isn't Frank single now?" I asked pointedly. "I heard that's true, but I don't give a damn about that bastard if that's what you mean. I'm a stupid bitch, but not enough to divorce you for Frank," Laura replied. "I thought you had already divorced me. I've given you many reasons." "I think I'm happy with what I'm doing here," I replied. "You know how much I hate change, and divorce can change a lot. We should discuss this now, shouldn't we?" "I suppose so. If you want, I would like to stay married, although my past actions disprove this statement. I know that you are too good a man to stay with a wife who lies and cheats. I always knew it, but I told myself you'll never know," Laura said. "Will you stay today?" I asked. "We have some time. We can discuss the sale of the house and everything else we have tied up within the next week or two. I'm going to look for a motel when I leave here. I saw something close to Highway 95. They're pretty close to Home Depot. I start working there in a week," Laura said. "Emma went grocery shopping so we could have time to talk, but she'll be back soon and I have to go." "Emma's room has 2 single beds. You can stay there if she doesn't mind," I suggested. "Won't this make you uncomfortable? I know that I'm not your favorite person right now," Laura said reservedly. I'll be fine if Emma doesn't mind. We can ask her when she comes, I replied. Of course, Emma didn't mind her mother sharing a room with her for a while. Over the next few days, the three of us began to fall back into the habits we had shared for years. I avoided the pool and the other ladies while Laura was under my roof. I had no desire to hurt her. There were several women who came to the pool and wanted to know when I was leaving. "Jim, you don't need these women in your bed," Laura whined that night. "I'll give you as much sex as you want. I'm enough for you, isn't it?" "Exactly," I replied. "I will never have anything to do with any of these women again." "Then why are there 2 fewer condoms in the bowl today? How does everyone know what color your bedding is?" Laura asked. "I have no idea," I answered with a smile. "Maybe they just like to gossip." "Well, I don't like it," Laura said. "I don't want to hear about you with other women. I know I have no right to be jealous, but it hurts." "I understand, Laura," I replied. "But right now my focus is on Emma and figuring out our next steps. We need to decide what we're going to do with the house and everything else. Let's take things one step at a time." Emma returned from the grocery store, and the three of us sat down to discuss our plans. It was a difficult conversation, filled with moments of tension and awkwardness. But we managed to come to an agreement about selling the house and dividing the proceeds. Laura would stay with Emma for the time being, and we would see how things progressed from there. The next few days were a blur of activity as we packed up the house and made arrangements for the sale. Laura and I worked together, trying to maintain a sense of normalcy for Emma's sake. We had our moments of friction, but we also had moments of understanding and even laughter. It was strange to find ourselves in this situation, but we were determined to make the best of it. One evening, as we were packing up the last of the boxes, Laura approached me with a hesitant look on her face. "Jim, can we talk?" she asked. "Sure. What's on your mind?" I replied, setting down the box I was holding. "I've been thinking a lot about us and everything that's happened," Laura began. "I know I've hurt you deeply, and I can't undo the past. But I want you to know that I'm truly sorry. I miss you, and I miss the life we had together. I know it might be too late, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right." I looked at her, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. It was a moment of vulnerability that I hadn't seen in her for a long time. "Laura, I appreciate your apology," I said. "And I believe you're sincere, but trust is something that has to be rebuilt, and it takes time. I'm not sure where we go from here, but I'm willing to take things one day at a time and see what happens." Laura nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "That's all I can ask for, Jim. Thank you." As the days went by, we continued to navigate our new reality. Laura and Emma settled into their new routine, and I focused on my work and my own healing. It wasn't easy, but we were making progress. One afternoon, as I was working on a project in my apartment, Emma came to me with a smile on her face. "Dad, I got accepted into the college here in Florida," she exclaimed. "I can stay close to you and start fresh." "That's amazing, Emma," I replied, hugging her tightly. "I'm so proud of you." Having Emma close by was a source of comfort and joy. It gave me a renewed sense of purpose and hope for the future. Laura and I continued to work on our relationship, slowly rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. Months passed, and the seasons changed. We found ourselves spending more time together as a family, creating new memories and healing old wounds. It wasn't a perfect process, and there were still challenges to overcome, but we were moving in the right direction. One evening, as we sat by the pool, Laura looked at me with a soft smile. "Jim, I know we have a long way to go, but I'm grateful for this second chance. Thank you for not giving up on us." I took her hand in mine, feeling a sense of peace that had eluded me for so long. "Laura, we both made mistakes, but we're here now, and that's what matters." As the sun set over the horizon, we sat together, a family once more, ready to face whatever the future held, united in our determination to make things right. Thanks for tuning into this roller coaster of a story. Can you believe the twists and turns Jim, Laura, and Emma went through? From betrayal to redemption, it's been a wild ride. Do you think they made the right choices? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories. See you in the next video.